世界中の全ての人間に好かれるなんて気持ち悪いよ。だけど一つになれない休止して君と二人手を繋いでいたいの。数の暴力に白旗を開けて悪感情を殺してハイシーズポストトゥルースの甘いディープキスエロく歪んでるラト&ギース事故中の光線銃乱射する業者のナンセンスを特注ルで作る殺しのライセンス分断を裏返すトリゲム無数分弁で授かるペップ壮大な牛は乗りを歴史と呼ぶ生きたいか死ねと言われ死に大会ヒーローと言われ生きたいか死ねと言われ死に大会ヒーローと言われ幸せ自慢はダメ不幸なげいてもダメ涼しい言葉を避け明るい未来のためさないこの世には息もできない人がたくさんいるんですよさないこの世には息もできない人がたくさんいるんですよ足らく立てばこじらく立たずいずり奪い守り起死回地雷剣で立ち止まりおとなしく犬になるんだわノンブレスノンブレスノンブレスノンブレスオブリーチュ I love you 生き切るし日々の水面下ゆらゆらと煙る血の花僕らはコンプレックスコンプレックスコンプレックスコンプレックスオブ君争うそれぞれの都合と自由のため息を止めることを強制する石かすまる石かすまる石かすまる石かすまる石かすまる石かすまる石かすまる石かすまる石かすまる石かすまる石かすまる石かすまる石かすまる石かすまる石かすまる石かすまる石かすまる石かすまる石かすまる生きたいか死ねと言われ死にたいかヒーローと言われ生きたいか死ねと言われ死にたいかヒーローと言われ正当防衛と言ってチェーンソーを振り回すまともな人たちが怖いよ愛さんさん春らんまん日々だんだん大事なものが消えていくよさないこの世に愛を知らない人がたくさんいるんですよさないこの世に愛を知らない人がたくさんいるんですよ旧感染防止と逆恨みけど今見てがこぼれ落ち醜い感情からしてし真っ白い鳥いるんだなノンブレスノンブレスノンブレスノンブレスオブリーチュ I love you 深海魚と呼ぶ氷点下見上げているザラメの星僕らは直接直接直接直接手を下さないまま想像力を奪う液晶越しに息の根を止めて安心するノンブレスノンブレスノンブレスノンブレスオブリーチュ I love you それぞれの都合と自由のため息を止めることを強制する石かすまる石かすまる石かすまる石かすまる石かすまる石かすまる石かすまる石かすまる石かすまる石かすまる石かすまる石かすまる石かすまる石かすまる石かすまる石かすまる石かすまる石かすまる石かすまる石かすまる石かすまる石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石を止める石 ノンブレスノンブレスノンブレスノンブレスオブリーチュ I love you それぞれの好きを守るため君と僕語で呼吸するブンブン聞いてバージンバージン
Hi, Gracie's. Hello. Is anybody here? Hello. Are you an ace bandage? Because I sprained my ass. I don't remember who did this motion. Is it? Hold on. Did I not put it in, did I not put whoever made the motion in the comments? Because I do that sometimes. Hi. I didn't? Hmm. I didn't credit. Yay!
Chelsea still about him. I hope Don Cheetos is doing lovely today.
Thank you for the 20 months. I think he's doing fine. I think he's okay. He's just sitting there. Turn that up a little bit. One sec. The music is kinda quiet. I'm playing music from Siren. Blood Curse. I think. Can you hear it? The music from that game is, it's just kind of high-pitched noises. You guys did say that, is it too loud or is it too quiet? You guys said that, the people that, or at least one of the guys that came up with Silent Hill made Siren, right? Is Siren Blood Curse the first one? I know there's like three, right? Very ambient? Nice. Oh, there's Silent Hill 3. Maybe I could look up a Siren Blood Curse, OST playlist. One second. Siren Blood Curse. The guy that made the first Silent Hill did Siren. Yeah. OST. How about that? New true, new translation. Full soundtrack. Okay, maybe we don't do that one. um. Okay, so Blood Curse is the third one. Was the first one? They were like on an island, and it had really weird facial animation. Is that the same one? That elephant lady exploded in Adventure Time. What? I've never seen Adventure Time, unfortunately. I've been meaning to watch a couple of series that I never got to experience as a child. I've been going through my things I never got to do as a child era. Like, I've been trying to invite family over to my house more often, and I've been wanting to watch some series that I never got to watch or appreciate as a child. I watched a little bit of Total Drama Island, the first season. And I also want to watch... I know I keep saying I want to watch it, and I still haven't done it. I want to watch... My Little Pony. The one from like 2010 or whatever. And... I want to watch Adventure Time. I recently went through all of The Amazing World of Gumball. I'm just waiting for the movie now, which is probably not going to happen. I think that's all. I watched Dawn of the Dead earlier today, and I did not like it in the slightest. It was really boring. It was really boring, and I couldn't keep up with it. Maybe that just means I'm too dumb to get it, but like, I didn't like it at all. I did not. Okay, where's my list? There it is. Alright, so I watched Dawn of the Dead today. Maybe tomorrow I can watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre and maybe The Exorcist. I think I'm getting closer in convincing my mom to watch The Exorcist with me. I've already seen it, but she refuses to watch The Exorcist again. But I think I'm getting closer in convincing her to watch it. I'm excited to watch They Live. Because, I've seen clips of it. And like, my environment and society class in college, we watched a clip from it, and I've been wanting to watch it ever since. The 70s one? Yeah. I want to watch the original, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Maybe if I watch the 2004 Dawn of the Dead, maybe that will be better? I don't know. I mean, people have said that the original is like the best horror movie of all time, and I didn't like it at all. So maybe I'll like the 2004 one. I don't know. Rosemary's Baby. I've heard the name before, and I've heard it referenced in things, but I have close to no idea about what Rosemary's Baby is about. I'm assuming it's about a woman and her baby. A woman named Rosemary, maybe. Maybe a woman named Rosemary. I don't know why people name their kids after plants. We already have those. Okay. 1968. That's the year my dad was born. Maybe my dad is the baby. My dad is Rosemary's Baby. This search thing says, why is there so much yellow in Rosemary's Baby? What? That's how it was back in the day, either plants or Bible characters. The yellow wallpaper. A young couple trying for a baby moves into an aging, ornate apartment building on Central Park West, where they find themselves surrounded by peculiar something. Okay, I have a question. Hold on, I got some Vampire the Masquerade music going on. I'm looking for something better. Spooky check. Okay, give me a second. Oops. Spooky season, so we're going through our slash no sleep and an ASMR stream. Come have a cozy time. Beep beep. Okay. Ooh, Rule of Rose might be a good one. Hold on. Rule of Rose might have a good soundtrack for this. The Attic, complete soundtrack. It's only like 30 minutes long. The Attic extended. Backbiting. Okay, maybe I think Rule of Rose should have a good. Oh right, I forgot the opening. Is it all like... I forgot. Yeah, I think it's all like violins and stuff. I don't think... I don't think that will be good for what I'm doing right now. Imeniki... Check off any horror movies last night? No, but this week... I mean, not this week. Today, I just watched Dawn of the Dead, and I didn't like it at all. Hold on, nothing? It's... My connection to Twitch is not working at the moment. Okay, the old makeup looks really bad because it's the same stuff they use in the black and white movie. Yeah, it was boring and all the people were blue. Thank you for the follow, No Yuki. Hello, hello. Yeah, I didn't like it at all. It was boring and I like couldn't understand anything they were saying and couldn't follow what was going on. I didn't care about any of the characters. I'm thinking that maybe the 2004 remake, I'll like it better. Yeah, how are you? I'm good, thank you. I'm trying to find a good OST. I found one with good siren music and Silent Hill 2, but it also has music from like Vampire the Masquerade, which is a little bit too hype for ASMR, so I'm trying to find a good one. I'll watch the 2004 remake. Is there an evil OST? Maybe, but yeah, there's a lot of like hype music in Resident Evil. I usually go for Silent Hill. Slut vampires aren't necessarily scary unless you're gay. I love Vampire the Masquerade. I think it's a really cool game. Understanding how it's a commentary on 70s and 80s consumerist culture and the explosion of malls and popularity. And like I was born in '87 and spent a lot of time in malls growing up, but that's not your experience probably. No. It is not. And I live in a small town with like the closest mall is like an hour away. um I do keep there is this one Silent Hill playlist that I come back to sometimes, but I keep getting this weird copyright whenever I use this one. It let me go back. Let me go to my email real fast. It keeps, I don't know what this means. Like whenever I upload a VOD to my VOD channel, um it'll give me the weirdest copyright notice. It's like your content is blocked in some territories, and I'm like, okay, why? Uh, let me go here real fast. Partially blocked. And this was during when I was playing Resident Evil 3. Okay, this is from my last ASMR stream. Copyrighted material. Okay. And then when I go and see why it's copyrighted, I'll click see details. It says that the one that's blocking, the one that's getting me blocked is, it says metadata is hidden as the content in question has not been made publicly available by its provider. So I have no idea. Tom Savini won the 1985 Saturn Awards for Best Makeup for the third movie, Day of the Dead. The special effects were a huge leap forward from Dawn to Day. Oh. I saw him in the movie and I was like, there he is! That's the guy! But yeah, I'll show you what it says. It's not showing anything right now. Do I have display capture on here? I do not. Give me 1 second. Okay, this is what it says. So this is my my last ASMR VOD that I did. And right here it says metadata is hidden. This is the one that's getting my shit blocked. Ambient horror playlist. Okay. This is what's getting my shit blocked in these weird random territories. It says metadata is hidden as the content in question has not been made publicly available by its provider. So I have no idea. You have an idea about what this is? It doesn't make any sense. What is it? He sighed tiredly. I don't want to hear myself. Song in your playlist? Yeah, I wish I could. I wish I knew which song. I wish I knew which song. Man. Cut the intro. No, this is like during me talking. It's during me talking. It's 34 minutes in and I'm on that right now and it's me talking. So I don't know what I don't know what they want. I don't know what they want. I don't know what they want from me. It's not my intro. The fuck is it though? I have no idea. It's like a random Silent Hill song. No, man. Like a random Resident Evil or Silent Hill song. I have no idea. It won't tell me. Because apparently it's not publicly available. It won't tell me. I don't know, dude. Okay, let's check out this link. A moment of tranquility. Relaxing horror game music. There's one from Soma. Alan Wake. Cry of Fear, love. Sherry's theme, Resident Evil 2. Who is Sherry? I don't remember a Sherry. It's blocked in French something. Yeah, it's like French Guiana or something. I don't think that's like actually in France. That might be Sherry was the little girl, Birkin's kid. You met her in Claire's Run and then quit 5 minutes later. Okay. Oh no, it is in France. Okay. Oh wait, no it's not. It's South America. French Guiana is in South America. I thought it might have been in like Africa or something. Alright, well. Anyway. But yeah, I think I'll watch the 2004 remake of Day of the Dead and maybe see if I like that one better. Because it's just so much nothing happened in that movie, the 78 one. Just so much nothing. And like, the audio was so bad I could barely understand what they were saying. So like, I couldn't keep up with the story. I had to like go on my phone and go to the Phantom Wiki to read the plot to understand what they were doing. But yeah. Anyway, I think what I'm gonna watch next... Hi Crasher! I think I'm gonna try to watch, either Texas Chainsaw Massacre or They Live next. I really hope that tomorrow I can maybe convince my mom to watch The Exorcist with me. 'Cause she hates The Exorcist, and I'm really trying to... I'm really trying to get her to watch it. It's my main goal. Okay. This seems like a good playlist to leave on, I think. Silent Hill 4. Okay, I have one story loaded up. And it says it's a series, but I can't seem to find part 2. This part seems pretty long. And it says it's a locked post, and that new comments cannot be posted. Grandpa rented her one of the Friday the 13th movies, so who knows what the reason was. It's not high art, but at the same time has really interesting themes and like a 10-minute fight scene with Keith David and Roddy Piper. I am very interested. Thank you for the follow, it's Campo. Hello, hello. I am very interested in They Live because I keep seeing clips of it, and I am very interested. Give me 1 second, I'm gonna turn this shit down. Roddy Piper is absolutely not an actor, and that's part of the charm. Word. But yeah, I'm... Hello, Campo. Trying to find part 2. The comments are just filled with people talking about how spooky this story is. But I don't see a post for from OP. Thank you for the follow, Get Nuked. Hello, hello. The story was written 2 years ago. So, like, why? This is the second highest voted no sleep story. I'm trying to look for an update. Because it's tagged as a series. But I cannot find a part 2 anywhere. My pleasure, yay! I can't find a part 2. Fair point. Maybe if I go to their profile, I can find an update. Posts. My favorite narrations. Great narration of my story. Some days are better than others. Narrate the B movie. Okay, I see the original post. So I'm assuming that it's just one. Don Cheadle TTS. Let me know if you do. There's probably one out there. I mean, he doesn't have a super unique voice. He's just kind of like a normal dude. So maybe we can just like have a regular TTS and then pretend like it's Don Cheadle. There he is, by the way. It's Don Cheadle. I found him on eBay. Not yesterday. Friday. Okay, I cannot find a part 2, so maybe they made a mistake in tagging it as a series? I don't know, but a lot of people are saying that it's super spooky, so let's give it a shot, why don't we? Why is it just blue on my microphone? Why is it not? Hold on 1 second. There we go. Nice. Okay, I'm gonna start reading now. If you guys are chill with that. This is called, people will label something as part 1 just to build up hype. Well, it's not labeled as part 1, it's tagged as a series. Let me see if I can show you. Real fast. This is what I'm looking at. It's tagged as a series right here, but I scrolled all the way down and there's nothing at the end. And, I've been looking through the comments and I cannot find a post from OP that links to part 2. And I looked at their user as well, and I could not find one. I was scrolling through posts. This might just be the... Yeah, no, the thing is though, I scrolled down and I found it. I found the post here, and then there's nothing above it. There's nothing above it that could hint to a part 2. In the blackout? What blackout? I don't know anything about Reddit. BT Mookie ASMR stream. Yeah, I was looking through this and cannot find a part 2, so there doesn't seem to be a part 2 anywhere. And calls it a series? Maybe? OP died. They died, 17 days ago. Yeah, it was written 2 years ago, so I do not think she, I don't think she's gonna update it. Never bothered. Yeah, I mean, that's fine. I make a lot of things without, following through on like a part 2, so yeah, I get it. But I mean, if she ever does make a part 2, I would like to read it because all of the comments on this thing are just saying how spooky and scary it is. So, let's read it, why don't we? It's called My Wife Has Been Peeking at Me from Around Corners and Behind Furniture. It's gone from weird to terrifying. So, okay. If you don't know this about me, I have like a weird fear. I'm not sure if it's irrational, but it is definitely a phobia of mine. I have a weird phobia of people peeking at me. I hate being peeked at. You know this one? Oh, nice. But it's by Malia Girl, not Malaria. Malia or Malia Girl 1314. But yeah, I have a fear of people, ghosts, creatures, anything peeking at me from around a corner. That's why in my room I keep my bathroom door open and the light on, because I'm afraid that something will peek at me from around the corner. Like my bed is in a position to where I can't see into my bathroom. Like my bed is right here and my bathroom is like this. So like I'm looking at it horizontally. So I'm so afraid of something peeking at me from my bathroom corner. Hi, bear. Well, I'm sure this story will give me the heebie-jeebies. And I'm kind of excited about it. Alright, let me try and turn the music up a little bit. Ooh, that's too loud. What is this? Amnesia, The Dark Descent. How fucked up the emotes looking, yeah. Don't worry about it. That's, thermal imaging Milky. Okay. Give me 1 second. There's like either my hair or my tag is like making me itch. Okay. My wife has been peeking at me from around corners and behind furniture. It's gone from weird to terrifying. My wife, Lynn, in quotes, and I have been together for 6 years and married for 11 months. Our entire history together has been very normal, and never once have I noticed any weird behaviors or red flags. I can't stress enough how out of character this whole thing is for her. Lynn is very kind, intelligent, and thoughtful. She's always been the no-nonsense type of person. Being childish or trying to scare me is not something she'd normally do. She doesn't even like watching horror movies. When we first started dating, she agreed to watch The Shining with me because she knew how much I loved horror. She was so scared that she didn't even make it through half of the movie before we had to turn it off. She isn't into anything creepy and has never been into pranks. That's just not her cup of tea, and that's fine. But that's what was so strange about this. It's just so unlike her. I should also add that she never had any mental health issues, and as far as I'm aware, it doesn't run in her family. I know some people are able to hide their mental health problems, but in the 6 years we've been together, I think I'd have seen some sort of sign. 2 months ago, I was in the kitchen making myself some coffee before work. I was running a bit late that morning, and I knew I wouldn't be able to make it to Dunkin' Donuts for my usual morning fix. I've never actually had coffee from Dunkin' Donuts. I've only had, the donuts. Is the coffee from Dunkin' Donuts good? I've also had, I don't really drink coffee that much anymore because it makes me have to pee a lot. But, inverted parrot is much scarier. Yeah, dude. Negative parrot. Hi, Papa Fizz. Long time no see. Hello. How Krispy Kreme is way better. Dunkin' Donuts is a coffee place that happens to have donuts. We don't really have any, donut place. I'm busy with life. How are you? I think I'm good. Oh, I don't have those redeems on the screen. Sorry. Can you get your points refunded? Womp womp. Okay, yeah. Anyway. 2 months ago, I was in the Dunkin' Donuts. Okay, I took a sip of my coffee as I hurried down the hall towards the front door, when I happened to notice Lynn peeking at me from around the corner ahead of me. I could only see her eyes and a strand of her long dark hair hanging against the wall. The rest of her body was concealed behind the corner. I nearly spilled my coffee when I saw her. It did burn the shit out of my lips. I hate that. I hate that so much. I hate that. This story is gonna fuck with me. I know it is. I hate peeking. I hate it. It's so scary. Okay. That sent a shiver down my spine. It's only the first few paragraphs. God. Okay. I took a sip of my coffee as I hurried down the hall towards the front door, when I happened to notice— okay, wait. Geez, Lynn, I said, wiping a few drops of coffee from my pants. You scared the shit out of me. Combine peeking with trypophobia. It's kind of, that one Junji Ito short story, with the rock. And the guy, comes up to his window, and he's peeking in, and he's got holes all over him. That's kind of it. Oh my god, we should get giant monster trypophobia peeking at me. That's my #1 nightmare. I miss it. We used to have, I don't know if it's still around. I don't think it exists anymore. We used to have a donut place called Daylight Donuts, and they had some pretty good donuts. I live in the middle of buttfuck nowhere, Alabama, though. We don't really have a ton of chains unless they're super popular, like Burger King or McDonald's. So I don't think I've ever really been to a Krispy Kreme or a Dunkin' Donuts. Mr. Donut? I do have rigatonis. Yes, that is very important. We do have rigatonis. No, wait. Is it rigatoni? Hold on. It might be rigatoni and not rigatoni. Yeah, okay. It's rigatoni, not rigatoni. Rigatoni Valentino, world famous lip syncer. I forgot about Rigatoni's, dude. I need to ask to go there. There are more trees than people. Dude, word. I live in a place with, we have a lot of forests where I live. It's like northern Alabama, kinda, just like right below Tennessee. So we've got a lot of forests. It's kinda spooky. Okay. She immediately popped out of view like a little kid that had been caught. I heard her scurry off towards the living room, and by the time I got to the front door, she was out of sight. It was really weird and just totally out of character for her, like I said, but I also found it kind of funny that she was being more playful and a little less serious. I shouted that I loved her and called her a weirdo. As I shut the door behind me, I heard her laughing. Her behavior was a bit odd, but it certainly wasn't something to call a priest over. I forgot about it by lunch, and by the time I got home, she was her normal self. I didn't bring it up, and neither did she, and life went on. The spot all my storms go to, yeah. We don't really, it's kinda, the thing that happens with the storms now is it like, I live on a mountain. It's not super high, it's just like a little mountain. The storms like part around where I live, and they like go down into the valley. The next incident happened 3 days later. It was around 2 a.m. and I had woken up to get a drink. I was standing at the kitchen island, jug of OJ in hand, when I felt a strong feeling that I was being watched. For whatever reason, I looked down at the floor and saw my wife's smiling face staring back. She was peeking at me from the other side of the island, staring up at me with wide, unblinking eyes and grinning like the Cheshire Cat. I screamed, I'll admit it, not out of irritation, but fear. For some reason, at that moment, I was scared. I am too, dude. Sorry, there's a gnat flying around. At the sound of my scream, Lynn scuttled backwards out of my view, her hands and feet smacking the tile floor as she hurried out of the kitchen on all fours. I didn't run after her or even yell after her. I just stood there frozen in shock, wondering what the fuck had possessed her to do that. I don't like this. I don't like this story. I don't like this story. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like this. It took me a little longer than I'd like to admit to go back upstairs, but I eventually did. When I got to our bedroom, Lynn was lying on her side, asleep, at least pretending to be. I stood there for a while, watching her breathing to be sure she was really asleep. I had the feeling she might jump out at me at the moment I got into bed. She didn't. I climbed into bed and she didn't even move. Her breathing was soft and deep, and I was starting to wonder if I'd dreamt the whole thing. The next morning, I waited for her to come down for coffee, and after handing her a mug and kissing her cheek, I decided to ask her about it. What was that about last night? I asked, keeping my tone light so I didn't offend or embarrass her. She frowned over her cup of coffee, shaking her head like she had no clue what I was referring to. You were peeking at me again, from over there, I said, pointing to the spot on the floor by the kitchen island. She followed my gaze, and when she looked back at me, she burst out laughing. She laughed so hard that I couldn't help but join her. You creep me the fuck out sometimes, you know that? I said. She giggled and set her cup on the counter and wrapped her arms around my neck. You creep me out all the time, so I guess we're even, she teased. Is it cold for you today? Yeah. Skip straight from summer to winter again. Yeah. It has been kinda cold. I started seeing her peeking at me more and more. Sometimes she'd be peeking out from behind the couch or living room curtains. Once she even managed to get inside her grandmother's old trunk that sits at the foot of our bed. I hate this. I just want you to know I hate this, and I'm gonna dream about it tonight. I might not have even known she was there at all had the trunk's old hinges not given her away. She had She'd propped the lid up just enough so that only half of her face peeked through. She'd been grinning like an excited toddler. It was unnerving. I didn't even know what to say to her. All I could do was stare. When I finally found my voice, I asked her why on earth she was doing this. She didn't answer, but she slowly closed the lid, shutting herself inside the trunk. I just walked away, feeling disturbed. I hate this. I hate peeking. Why did I pick this one? I didn't understand why she was doing it, but it clearly made her happy. I just hoped she would tire of the game quickly. Lynn didn't peek at me for the next 2 weeks. I started to think she was done with her weird prank, and I was relieved. We were watching a show on Netflix one night, and I jokingly said that I hadn't seen her peeking at me lately, and that she must have given up on her spy game. She looked up at me with a small smile and said, "Maybe I've just gotten better at it." I like it when the streamer has a panic attack. Reading about one of my fears. This is gonna get me like doing the cover for entomologists got me. Okay. I didn't say anything, but I wondered whether or not she was joking. For the next few days, I couldn't stop thinking about what she said. Was she still peeking at me when I wasn't looking and I just hadn't noticed? And if so, what the hell was she getting out of this? I started to feel paranoid, constantly checking whether she was watching from around the corner or behind a door. I was jumpy whenever I was home and she wasn't in full view of me. I felt stupid and a little crazy. The cover's good though. Yay! But after a few weeks without another incident, I began to relax. I stopped checking behind furniture and walls and told myself it was just a bad memory. Yeah, with my entomologist cover, I had to like take a break a couple times because it started to freak me out. Then a few days ago, things got so much worse. Lynn left to go to her friends, and I lounged on the couch and played a couple games on my laptop. We were gifted with twink mantis. Yeah, you guys are horny for the mantis in that video. Did you guys like my Shoujo Rei cover, by the way? What song is this? 2803. Resident Evil 4. Yeah, I'm glad. I know it wasn't like a total banger or like spooky or anything, but I don't know. It's like it was a vent cover. Around 9 p.m. I hopped in the shower, and as I was washing the soap from my hair, I felt that awful feeling that I was being watched. I slowly opened my eyes and almost had a fucking heart attack. Lynn was peeking from behind the shower curtain, her entire head stretched into the shower, leaving just her body outside. I hate this. I hate this. I hate this. It was really good, thank you. I fucking hate this. I have that fear of someone peeking at me from behind the shower curtain. I have to watch that after stream. I don't remember seeing the notification. Yeah, you can go, what channel? What's that channel called in my Discord? Dude, my heart is like... Oh my god, I hate this so much. It's in the Pee Pee Poo Poo Tube channel in my Discord. Shoujo Rei. It's a vent cover. Ooh, we got some new joypad art. Okay. I should be wearing like a blood pressure cuff. So you guys can see my blood pressure right now. It's probably like going through the roof. Her long dark hair hung against the curtain, the ends dripping with water. Her mouth hung open in a terrible grin. eyes wide and red, as if she hadn't blinked in a while. Imagine her looking like the Momo statue. Fuck! Don't! I screamed and jumped back against the wall. She didn't move, nor did her smile waver. Her makeup ran down her cheeks in 2 black streaks. She looked giddy and completely deranged. I was fucking terrified. We stood like that for a few moments, neither of us saying a word. Finally, after what felt like forever, she slowly pulled her head back out of the shower, and I watched her blurry figure through the curtain as she moved backwards towards the bathroom door. Yeah, dude, that's like me. I didn't fucking blink at the mortuary assistant, but this shit, it'll have me pooping my pants. I did not blink once playing the mortuary assistant, but this shit, I'm gonna pee my little pants. Okay. A second later, the bathroom door slammed shut, hard enough to rattle the mirror. I screamed again and jumped out of the shower to lock the door. I stayed inside the bathroom for over an hour. Maybe I overreacted to some of you, but joke or not, I wasn't going to put up with the crazy shit anymore. That's what I kept telling myself as I paced in my bathroom, stopping to listen to the door every few minutes. Dude, okay, when I was unmedicated, I was not medicated, and, I ended up locking myself in the bathroom because I don't really remember what I was afraid of, but I had convinced myself that there was somebody. We were on vacation, and we were in a vacation house, and this one had a balcony, and I was there. I could get out onto the balcony from my room, and I convinced myself that someone was out on the balcony trying to get in, so I locked myself in the bathroom for like hours. So that's bringing back memories of that. Okay. Suddenly I heard a muffled sound, and I pressed my ear against the bathroom door, straining to listen. I couldn't hear anything, but I envisioned Lynn standing on the other side of the door, giggling at her joke. I felt a surge of anger. I was beyond pissed at being made to feel scared in my own house, and made to hide in the bathroom for an hour. All for what? Some sick joke? Or some joke, I mean? I added that. If it was a joke, it was an awful one. What the fuck, Lynn? I snapped. This shit is getting really fucking annoying. I waited for her to apologize or to call me a jerk, but instead I heard a faint moan. So quiet I wondered if I heard it at all, and then complete silence. Lynn? I called out, not able to even hide the shakiness of my voice. I got no response, just my own heavy breathing. I swear to God, just fucking stop it, I yelled, pounding my fist on the door. I waited for her to cuss me out, something I would expect from me talking to her like that. I never screamed at her before. But there was nothing, just the occasional drip from the shower head. I won't deny that I was scared, too afraid to open the damn door and face my own wife. I waited another 30 minutes or so, which feels like a fucking lifetime when you're scared. Finally, I decided I wasn't going to spend the night hiding in my bathroom, so I got down on my knees and peered under the door. I almost expected to see her face peeking back at me, but thankfully I didn't. I could see straight down the hallway to the top of the stairs, but no Lynn. I didn't know if I should be happy about that or not. I looked for a few minutes, waiting to see her head pop up over the top step, but it never came. I stood up, my hand hovering over the door, and mentally prepared myself to open it. I slowly turned the lock with shaky fingers and was about to yank it open when I heard a sound that still makes me feel nauseous when I think about it. A moan, louder than before, but this time I was able to tell just where it was coming from. I turned my head to the closet door as if in slow motion, and locked eyes with my wife, who was peeking out from the slight gap. Fuck. Her eyes were still wide as ever, and her mouth was hanging open in the most grotesque, gaping smile I'd ever seen. I didn't even scream. I was too scared for even that. Her hands were clasped to her chest, body trembling with sheer delight, as if she could barely contain her excitement. A short, raspy moan bubbled up from her throat, deep and raw, sending a shiver through my entire body. Somehow I found the ability to pull the bathroom door open and ran as fast as I could all the way down the steps, snagging my keys and phone from the table in the living room before running outside to my car. I could hear her shrill laughter behind me, but I didn't hear her getting closer. I didn't bother shutting the front door. I drove away from the house faster than I legally should have, shivering the entire time, either from fear or the cold, maybe a little of both. I hadn't grabbed a coat or even a pair of shoes. I was still in my boxers and my hair was still damp. I drove straight to my brother Chris's house about 40 minutes away, ignoring any and every call and text I got. I didn't check my phone until I was safely parked in my brother's driveway. Lynn had called 4 times and sent a flurry of texts, all wondering where I'd gone and why I left, quote-unquote, like that. I threw my phone at the dash in a rage, furious at her nonchalant attitude. My brother and his wife were surprised to see me, especially dressed in just a pair of boxers, but told me to stay as long as I needed. Chris lent me some clothes and asked me what happened. Hold on, I'm gonna switch positions. But falling asleep. I told him Lynn and I had a fight, but didn't get into the details. I didn't want him to think I was overreacting, leaving my wife over a prank, even if it was a strange one. I mean, hadn't I encouraged her for years to lighten up instead of being so serious all the time? I had wanted her to relax and loosen up, but this was definitely not what I'd had in mind. I tried to sleep on their sofa, but my brain wouldn't let me sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Lynn's face staring at me from inside the closet. Knowing she'd been in there with me the entire time made my skin crawl. She'd never left the fucking bathroom at all. Instead, she slipped inside the closet and slammed the bathroom door shut to fool me. The mere thought of going back home gave me anxiety. I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. Chris ended up giving me a sleeping pill, so I was able to get a little rest. My sleep was filled with terrible dreams, all of Lynn's smiling face. I woke up just as the sun started to rise. My sore body ached from the sofa, and I felt drained. I knew I'd have to call Lynn at some point, but I didn't know what to say to her. I wouldn't be going home unless she gave me her word she'd never do any more creepy shit. I just wanted my wife back. Her normal, serious self never looked so good to me. I was contemplating calling her and telling her that when that familiar feeling came over me. I was being watched. I was staring at the ceiling, my heart in my throat. I didn't want to look away, but the longer I ignored the feeling, the worse it got. My eyes drifted away from the ceiling, almost on their own. Her face was pressed up against the window beside the couch, staring down at me with that same gaping smile. Drool dribbled down her lips, leaving 2 long streaks down the glass. I don't know how long she'd been there, but something told me she'd been there quite a while, possibly all night. I didn't bother screaming, though I was afraid anger trumped any fear I felt at that moment. I jumped up from the couch and pounded my palm against the glass. "Lynn, are you crazy? What the hell is wrong with you? Just go home," I shouted. "Now!" She didn't move, and her ghastly expression never changed. If anything, her smile only grew, as if she had never been more elated. I could hear Chris and his wife moving around upstairs, as if Lynn could hear them from her place outside. Her head twitched slightly in their direction. Sorry. Bless me. Her head twitched slightly in their direction, and she began to close her mouth slowly. Chris called my name from upstairs, obviously concerned. I turned to see him and his wife Rebecca hurrying down the steps. When I turned back to the window, Lynn was gone. The only sign she'd been there at all was the 2 streaks of drool dripping down the glass. tried explaining to Chris and Rebecca about waking up to see Lynn watching me through their window. They were skeptical. Who wouldn't be? Chris and I went outside to the spot in front of the window, but there were no footprints in the dirt, just a slight indent. Animal, probably, Chris guessed, and I didn't argue. He and Rebecca assumed I dreamt the entire episode, but they didn't understand, and I was too tired to explain it to them. I called out of work that day and turned my cell off. I didn't want to face Lynn. Just talking to her was too much for me at that point. I really started to believe something was irreversibly wrong with her. That no matter what promises she made, we'd never be the same again. The thought saddened me to my core. I cried most of the morning. By noon, I figured I was ready to confront her. Give her one last chance to explain herself. I could at least give her that after 6 years, I told myself. I turned my phone on and saw the dozens of texts she'd sent, all from a seemingly concerned wife. Can we talk? I love you. Please call me. I'm really worried. Can you answer? Just come home. And more of the same. All texts telling me she loved me and she wanted me home. How worried she was. Not a damn one addressing the crazy shit she pulled, like she hadn't been acting like a character from a Stephen King book. Even her texts were different. She normally texted novels just to tell me to pick up a loaf of bread. You'd think she'd have more to say to me after her bizarre shenanigans. I know it probably seems childish to some of you who are miles away from this situation, but if you saw the way Lynn had looked at me, how she scampered away on all fours like some wild animal, grinning at me from inside the closet like a lunatic, then I think you'd find my reaction was warranted. Yeah, no, dude. I probably would have murdered her at this point, so if anything, you're underreacting. Stephen King wishes his stories were this spooky. Dude, I just remembered, my English teacher in high school, I don't remember which grade I was in. Freshman? No, junior? I don't remember. But my English teacher looked exactly like Stephen King. Exactly like Stephen King. Let me see if I can find a picture of him. Like, he looked so much like Stephen King to the point where when I was in middle school and we were doing like a tour of the high school, I saw him and I was like, is that fucking Stephen King? What was his name? He had a weird last name. Oh, I remember. No, that's not him. Yeah, okay, no, that's the wrong teacher. His last name Bachman. No. Fuck. Stephen King's cameo in Milky's story, yeah. What was his fucking name? Hold on. Maybe if I look up class of 2018 yearbook? I can't find a picture of him. I don't remember his name. I don't remember what his name was, but he looked exactly like Stephen King. Hold on. Except that he had, white hair. Yeah, he looks exactly like Stephen King. Like, literally like a clone of Stephen King. He had that weird nose and, like, no upper lip. And the same glasses. Like, my English teacher was like a Stephen King clone. Maybe I can look up my high school name and then English teacher? That's a woman. Oh hey, that's someone that I graduated with. She's a teacher now. Um Shit, dude, I really wish that I could show you guys my English teacher. But I can't. I don't remember his name and I can't find him. Dang it, I'm gonna have to ask. Maybe I can go look in my yearbook or something. I want to show you guys so bad because he looks. I know I've said this like 5 fucking times, but he looks exactly like Stephen King. Our texts were different. I ended up staying with Chris and Rebecca for another night. I didn't wake up yesterday until afternoon, and thankfully I didn't see Lynn's face watching me through the window. I don't want to pry because it's not my place, but is this fight something that can be mended? Rebecca asked. She'd made us both a sandwich for lunch, and I knew she wanted to breach the subject without seeming to be nosy. Chris and Rebecca. Resident Evil. I don't know. She's like a different person, I said, choosing my words carefully. I still wasn't ready for her or Chris to know the full extent of the batshit craziness I had been dealing with. How far could he be punted? Probably across a football field. People change, Ben, but she's still the same woman you married. Maybe you both just need to talk through your issues. Whatever's going on, I'm sure it can be fixed, she said, ever the peacemaker. I think I'm gonna ask my brother what that teacher's name is. He's a lot better with names than I am. Because I'm obsessed with it now. I need to find out what my fucking teacher's name was. Because he's a Stephen King clone, and I'm convinced of it. I think it's beyond that now. I don't think talking would help. I just don't trust her. Lynn was the evil resident! Fuck! The words stung in my heart. I missed and loved my wife, but how could I live with someone like that? Living in constant fear didn't sound too appealing. Lynn loves you. She has to be absolutely crushed, she said. I don't know about that, I said. Well, she certainly seemed like it to me. I'd never seen her so upset. Very much unlike the Lynn I know, Rebecca said, shaking her head sadly. It took a full minute for her words to really sink in, and when they did, I felt dread worming its way through my skin. Wait, what do you mean? You saw her? You saw Lynn? I asked, my mouth suddenly dry. Rebecca nodded casually, as if that fact wasn't nightmare fuel. Maybe for her it wasn't. She stopped by this morning just after Chris left for work, she said, cleaning the plates from the table. I didn't see her car, though. Maybe she took an Uber or something. Beck, what did she say? Did she come inside? I asked, sweat starting to break out on my forehead. I began looking around, examining corners as though a predator lurked behind them. No, she just asked if you were awake yet, and I said that you weren't. I asked if she wanted me to wake you, but she said no. Just said to let you sleep, she said as she washed the dishes. That's all? She didn't say anything else? I asked. No, she looked awful though, like she hadn't slept in days. I think you should call her. I got up from the table and thanked Rebecca for lunch. I felt a bit better at the knowledge that at least she hadn't come inside. Still, I needed to double check that the doors were locked. Oops. Sorry if you heard that, my slipper, like rubbed over something. I sat for a while trying to figure out what to do next. I didn't want to go home, but I felt that I owed it to Lynn to help her if I could. Hadn't I sworn an oath to love and honor her through sickness and in health? Clearly she was very sick. If she was sick, which I truly believe she was, I had to try and get her the help she needed, but I didn't even know where to start. I didn't want to call the police, and besides, what the hell was I going to tell them? That my wife was peeking at me? That she was being creepy? As bizarre as she'd been, she still hadn't committed any crime. Not yet, anyway. The police would have probably said that I was overreacting, but this wasn't some prank. It felt wrong. Dangerous, even. Like something sinister lurked beneath her smile. I knew as her husband I was well within my rights to have her committed, but what if she simply acted normal in their presence? She'd obviously been able to fool Rebecca into thinking she was just a concerned wife. As long as the doctors didn't find her a danger to herself or others, they'd have no choice but to release her after 72 hours. I felt lost and overwhelmed. So I did what any husband in my position would do. I called her mother. I didn't want to, believe me. Her mother, Marianne, and I were never on the best of terms. We never fought or anything like that. She just wasn't a very warm person and wasn't really easy to get along with. She hardly ever smiled, and when she did, only her lips would move into a thin-lipped smile, leaving her eyes as blank as before. She gave off this aura that felt like she was permanently on the offensive. I'd only met her twice, and both times were for short visits. I got the impression she didn't approve of me for her daughter. Lynn always ushered us out quickly, as she didn't want me to feel uncomfortable, which I was grateful for. Being in her mother's company felt almost unbearable, like walking on glass. I was glad when we moved 3 states away so we didn't have to see her often. I was happy to avoid the woman, but I needed her help. I really didn't want to talk to her at all, but I had to talk to someone, and someone who knew Lynn better than I did. So I grit my teeth and did what I had to do. Yes, she answered, already sounding irritated. Marianne, it's me, Ben. Do you have a minute to talk? I asked. I could hear her cluck her tongue in irritation. I'm in the middle of writing some checks, but if you insist, I suppose I can spare a moment. What is it that you want to discuss, Benjamin? She said, coolly. It's about Lynn. She's been acting strangely, and I was wondering if you had any idea whether there was something. I was quickly interrupted. It's a bit difficult to follow your rambling, Benjamin. What is it that you want from me? She asked. I could almost see her standing there in her thin sweater and slacks, tapping her fingernails impatiently on the table. I wanted to know if you'd ever noticed any odd behavior, or possibly any mental health issues. I asked. There was a long, uncomfortable pause that I couldn't tell was because she was just thinking or something else. Finally, after a few seconds, she spoke. I'm not sure if this is one of your jokes, Benjamin, but if so, I don't find the humor in it. Now, I do have business to attend to, as I've said, so if you don't mind, she said, but I cut her off before she could get rid of me. Marianne, it's not a joke. I'm sincerely concerned about Lynn's mental health. Her behavior has been very erratic lately. I'm very worried about her, and I figured as her mother, you would be as well, I said, my frustration evident in my voice. If you're truly concerned, then I suggest you get the health professionals involved. I don't know what you expect of me, she snapped. I could tell she was seconds away from hanging up, and for some reason I was desperate not to let her. I had the feeling that she knew a lot more than she was letting on. Please, if not for me, do it for Lynn. I tried. I heard a faint, shaky intake of breath, as if she were trying to hold her steely persona together, but failing. Marianne, I started. Benjamin, I don't know what to tell you. My only advice would be to seek professional help. Do not call here again. Goodbye. I tried to call out to her, but she'd hung up. I tried to wrap my head around the call and her refusal to help me. Even if she didn't like me, why wouldn't she want to help her own daughter? I couldn't understand that. I tried to replay the conversation, desperate to find something I'd missed. After a while, I almost gave up, until I remembered her last words to me. Seek professional help. She'd said those words with a bit of urgency. I could have just been grasping at straws, but no, I was sure her voice had changed ever so slightly when she'd said that, as if they were very important. What had she meant? I assumed she'd been referring to medical professionals, but maybe she was referring to someone else. Someone that she didn't, for some reason, feel comfortable saying directly. Or maybe I was just desperate. I waited for Chris to get home, and after a very long and exhausting conversation with him and Rebecca, I I convinced them that Lynn truly needed psychiatric help. I didn't tell them everything. I wasn't prepared to go into it yet, but I told them about our last encounter. How she'd hidden in the bathroom, peeking at me from the closet. They were obviously shocked, but thankfully they believed me. They too just wanted to help her. Still, they didn't think it was all that serious. Weird maybe, but not dangerous. They just kept saying that Lynn had to be playing some kind of weird joke. Maybe for YouTube, Rebecca offered, if only half-heartedly. Chris didn't think we should involve the police just yet. He offered instead to go with me, and I readily accepted. He reasoned that calmly talking to her, trying to coax her into going willingly, was the best recourse. I agreed to do it his way. At least I wouldn't be going into that house alone. We drove over this morning just after breakfast. There was no way I was going at night. When we pulled into the driveway, my stomach began doing somersaults. Her car wasn't there, but I still didn't let my guard down. The front door was ajar, and for a split second I thought we'd see her eyes staring through the gap. I was shaking and starting to sweat. Chris, however, was fine. He waited for me to open the door, his hands in his pockets like he was going on a fucking stroll through the park. I envied his ignorance. I pushed the door open and was immediately hit with the stench of rot. Chris smelled it too, and he walked in the house behind me with his nose scrunched up. "What do you guys use to clean the floors around here, shit?" Chris mumbled. "Shut up," I said, my eyes darting around for any signs of Lynn. The house was deadly quiet and dark, despite being 10 in the morning. All the curtains were closed up tight, refusing to allow any sunlight inside. If I hadn't left it just 2 days prior, I'd have thought the house to be abandoned. We moved through each room, carefully checking any place that she might hide, occasionally calling her name. "Why the fuck are you looking under the couch?" Chris asked eventually. "Aren't we looking for your wife?" He was looking at me like I was a moron. "Let's just go upstairs," I whispered. He shook his head, but pulled me up the stairs to check the bathroom and spare bedroom. On the way up, my shoes crunched over pieces of glass that looked to be littered over a few of the steps. We're doing well. Yeah! This is my Halloween recolor. Hello, Fina. I think I'm doing okay. Thank you. But this fucking story, it's giving me the heebie-jeebs because, it's about one of my weird phobias, of someone peeking at you from around a corner. I noticed that one of Lynn and my wedding portraits that hung on the wall along the staircase had been smashed. The frame hung crookedly, all the glass removed. I stared at the picture, a lump forming in my throat. We had taken the photo just after leaving the church, after saying our vows. She looked so beautiful in her white gown. I looked at Lynn's beautiful face. I never dreamed her face would be the source of terror for me. A source of terror for me, sorry. We climbed the rest of the steps and checked the spare bedroom, but it looked completely untouched. I was hesitant to go into the bathroom, my fear from that night coming back to me all at once. Chris noticed and offered to go in by himself. But I couldn't let him do that, so we walked in together, checking the closet and the shower. The bathroom looked as if it hadn't been touched since the night I left. "I don't think she's here, Ben. Why don't you pack some clothes and we'll try going back tomorrow or something," Chris said. I nodded and went into our bedroom and shoved some clothes into a duffel bag. When I checked inside her closet, I came across the source of the smell and gagged. Chris took one look and lost all color in his face. He had to go stand by the stairs to get away from the sight and smell. I gazed down in shock at what lay inside my bedroom closet. Soaking into the rug were at least a dozen eyeballs, all carefully laid out in pairs. Some were as large as a quarter, while others were as tiny as a marble. I stared down at the eyes she'd collected from small animals, and I wondered how she'd gotten them, and shuddered at the thought. "Man, I thought I had it bad with Becca's shoe addiction, but fuck me. Your wife's in here collecting eyeballs," Chris said, gagging. "Ben, I think we should go," he called from the hall. "I'm getting nauseous." "Alright." I grabbed my duffel and shut the closet door on my new nightmare. I stepped out into the hall and took a deep breath of air. I could taste the rot on my tongue, and I couldn't help but gag. "Who the fuck lines up eyeballs in their closet like that?" Chris mumbled. "I tried to tell you she needed help," I said. She doesn't need help, Ben. She needs a fucking exorcist, he said. You coming or what? I can't stand the smell any. His words died in his throat, and his eyes grew wide with fear. I didn't ask him why. I could feel it. Someone was watching me, and I didn't think it was the eyes in the closet. I turned around, my eyes slowly scanning the bedroom. Christ, I whispered as I finally saw what we'd missed. Under the bed, curled on her side, watching us with the excitement of a kid on Christmas morning, was my wife. She held her hands together just under her chin, and they were shaking eagerly. Now that she knew she'd been found, I could hear the quiet noises she was making. Sort of hiccuping sound in her throat, as if the excitement was just too much for her. It was unnerving to say the least. Wide eyes and that same huge smile. Everything in me told me to run, but I forced it away. This was my wife. No matter how twisted, she was still the woman I married. I had to help her. Lynn, I said softly. She didn't respond, but her head bobbed back and forth in two quick little movements as if she were nodding. Baby, I just want to help, okay? Can you let me do that? I asked. I had taken a single step forward, approaching her like some kind of dangerous animal. I love you, Lynn, I said softly, taking another step closer. She let a tiny moan escape her wide-open mouth, and I had to resist the urge to run. Her shoulders were starting to quiver, and her eyes grew as large as saucers. I crouched down so I could see her better, and immediately saw the blood. Her hands were covered in it. They trembled more the closer I got, as if she was barely able to contain herself. Lynn, are you hurt? You're bleeding, I said. She bobbed her head again, her bloody fingers moving up and down as if playing an invisible piano. They occasionally grazed her chin, leaving smears of blood on her skin. I wanted to recoil in disgust. The smell that was coming off of her was revolting. I could feel the vomit trying to climb up my throat. Her lips were dry and stretched thin, blood seeping between the cracks. I knew she wouldn't come out on her own, but I didn't want to leave her in the state she was in. I scooted closer and reached out to her. The excited hiccuping sounds got louder, and her hands shook, fingers flexing. It was then that I could see the blood oozing from in between her fingers. Oh my God, Lynn, you're bleeding, I said. Instinctively, I reached out to take her hand, but before I could even touch her, her hand sprang out towards me. A sharp pain shot through my arm, and I fell back on my ass. My arm burned, and I could see the blood dripping down onto the carpet. I looked back at her in shock and saw her grinning madly, her fingers clutching a shard of glass. You all right in there? Chris asked from behind me. I turned my head slightly and nodded to him, cradling my arm to my chest. When I turned back to face Lynn, I saw that her focus had shifted. She wasn't looking at me anymore, and she wasn't smiling anymore either. She was staring past me, her eyes glaring at Chris the way a hungry lion might stare at an antelope. Her mouth was still hanging open, but it was twisted into a snarl. I got to my feet and began walking backwards down the hall, afraid to take my eyes off her. Are you bleeding? Chris asked. The moment the words left his mouth, Lynn started fast scooting up from under the bed, the glass shard still in her fist. Chris, run! Go! I yelled. He must have been too afraid to move because a second later I felt my back bump into him. He was still standing at the top of the stairs, staring at the horror that was my wife. Lynn had crawled completely out from under the bed and stood in the bedroom doorway, her face twisted in rage. Her whole body was visibly tense. Blood ran down her fingers and onto the floor. Jesus, Lynn, Chris said. You, playing hide and seek? I reached back and pushed him toward the steps. Move your ass, Chris, I said as quietly but firmly as I could. Lynn bobbed her head in fast, sharp motions and began to grin, stretching her mouth open wider and wider so that her chin seemed to touch her chest. I heard Chris mutter a prayer, and then he was running down the stairs. I stood at the top of the steps, stuck between the love for a woman who clearly needed serious help and self-preservation. I only want to help, I said, choking back tears. Her eyes focused on me once again as she slowly lifted the glass, holding it out in front of her. And then she started sprinting towards me, grinning with utter excitement. Thankfully, my body took over, and I flew down the stairs, skipping 2 or 3 at a time. I made it to the front door before I felt her leap onto my back, wrapping her arms around my neck, her open mouth next to my ear so that I could hear those terrible hiccuping sounds up close. shook her off me, knocking her to the floor. I felt a searing pain in my back as she went, but I tore open the front door and bolted to my car. Chris was standing in the front yard talking on the phone with the police. I didn't say a word, I just ran to my car and jumped in. Chris took the hint and followed me, still on the line with 911. Move your ass cheeks, Chris, they're clapping way too loud. I watched the rearview mirror. Sure, I'd seen her there, running after us, but I never did. I went straight to the ER and got 11 stitches in my arm and 3 on my back. The police asked a lot of questions and went back to the house to do a search, but of course, Lynn wasn't there. They advised me to stay with a friend or relative for a while and to file a restraining order as soon as I could, but none of those things would matter. Somehow I just knew. I dropped Chris off at home and went to a motel an hour away. I wanted to put as much distance between me and Lynn as I could. This is where I'd been for the last 4 hours. I thought maybe the police would find her. Maybe they'd get her the help she desperately needs. But now I don't think so, because 40 minutes ago I got a text from an unknown number. Just 3 words. I found you. And a picture attached. The picture was dark and grainy, but I instantly knew what it was. There was no mistaking my wife's eye. I started typing this out immediately after. I don't know what to do. I'm alone and scared, and I can't help but feel like I'm being watched. That's the end. That's the end of the story. Oh my god. Hold on. I'm trying to find part 2 again. Thank you for the follow, Miss Breadloaf. Hello, hello. Watching behind corners has got to be one of my #1 fears. Me too! I'm reading the comments. I'm sleepy. Chris and Rebecca, Evelyn and Ben, your family must be full of Resident Evil fans. Oh fuck. Did I fuck up my extender? I don't think I did. I do not see anything from OP. Yeah, all of these comments are from 2 years ago, and the post has been locked, so nobody can make any new can post any new comments. So I'm thinking this might be discontinued because there's been nothing on this for 2 years. I got a thing from her 2 years ago saying they were writing part 2, but it doesn't look like it was ever published. Maybe it was published somewhere else? Hi, Shy Pie. My wife has been peeking at me update. This is a TikTok. Ew, this TikTok has visuals. I hate the visuals. Ew. I hate it. Sippy time. Oh my god, I hate the visuals. Oh my god. I'm like, I can't look at it. It's so scary. I'm gonna show you guys what I'm looking at. This is people peeking behind corners is like one of my worst fears. Hey, there's 2 of me. This is what I'm looking at. Look at it. And that one. I hate it. Oh, look at it. Ugh. I hate it. Look at it. Wait, okay. Okay, let's just, them reading that. Okay. I hated that, but like in a good way. I hated that. In a good way, though. Okay, it looks like maybe she has discontinued this series. That's really unfortunate. Trying to find one that I haven't read. A package marked return to sender. Maria on the Moon. What about this one? She's been saying the most horrible things recently. It seems pretty short. Nah. I read this one. My sleep paralysis demon is actually a pretty chill guy. How about this one? All of the women in my family died at age 27. I turned 28 in 2 hours and 32 minutes. How about that one? Let's read that one. That sounds pretty neat. I think this is also a series. Let me see how many parts it has. It seems like it has 4. Kitsura VT, hello! Thank you for the raid, hi! That raid! Hello, hello! Yay! Yo! Hello, hello! Welcome in! Hello, my name is Milky. I'm a spooky AI and I do a lot of horror stuff. I usually play horror games, but I didn't really feel like playing a game today, so I've been reading the top rated spooky stories on r/nosleep. Yay! Hello, hello. What were you guys doing? Oh, and Kitsura, if you have anything to promo, like an art piece, or thank you for the follow, or if you just wanna introduce yourself and your streams, feel free to do so. Obviously, you don't have to, but just in case you want, the invitation is out there. But yeah, hello, welcome to Spooky AI reads stories that freaks them out. I was reading this we just finished with this one that was like about one of my probably one of my worst fears, and it freaked me the fuck out. But yeah, trigger warning for these, by the way. Some might have violence and disturbing imagery. Yes, sweet dreams tonight, dog. I did it to myself. I did it to myself. It was my choice, and I have to live with it. Hello, hello. Thank you for the follow, Jorge Senpai. What were you guys doing? I don't know if you guys are like in an ad. I don't know if an ad is playing or not. Usually it tells me, but ASMR? Ooh, what were you doing? Just like regular ASMR? That implies I'll be able to fall asleep. I don't think I've had anything scare me to the point of not sleeping in a very long time. Chat calls me a pet, and they are wrong. And I realize I don't have pizza anymore. What a struggle to go through. I haven't had pizza in forever. I kinda want some. I got fried chicken downstairs though. I think I'll have some of that. I've got... my grandparents brought over a lot of good food for the football game yesterday. One of my grandmoms brought me some brownies, and the other one brought me chicken fingers. And I've eaten like 5 of the brownies already. And have had unfortunate bowel movements. Yeah, the story that I want to read now has 4 parts. They don't look particularly long. So let me open all of them. Look at what the pet has to say. Part 3. Part 4. I am over 18. This one's marked as NSFW. What's the NSFW part? It was like 40 years old, so I guess we got our money's worth. Word. I think this one might be NSFW for sexual assault. Hold on, I'm reading a little bit. Hmm. I don't want to read too much of it. Running out of the mansion to get my vehicle. Thank you for the follow, Zanty24. Hello, hello. I can't find what makes this one NSFW. Alright, let's just start from part 1. Thank you for the follow, Bony Shark. Hello, hello. Sorry if I was quiet for a minute. I was trying to see what kind of NSFW it was so I could put a trigger warning, but I could not find it. Anyway, this one is called All of the Women in My Family Die at Age 27. I turned 28 in 2 hours and 32 minutes. By Her Creation, all one word, on Reddit. My dad always wanted a son. He got 3 daughters instead. He hated us all. Hated my twin sisters, hated my mother, but hated me most of all because I was the last child my mother had before she died. That didn't stop him from treating me like his little boy. Didn't stop him from attempting to beat the hatred of my own gender into me. Quit your crying, he'd snap, or you'll end up like your sniveling bitch of a mother. After years of that shit, he was shocked that I grew up as a tomboy. I think he hated that even more because I was just a constant reminder of what he never got to have. My mother died when she was only 27, when I was only 4. The coroner ruled her death a natural passing, some weird heart complication that took her in her sleep. My dad, though, he says it was because of her family's curse. Whenever I came to him, desperate for more information about a mother I never really knew, he never had much to say. I'm convinced he was just drunk since the day she died. Every woman in her damn family die. They die when they're 27, he'd sputter in between belches, his breath reeking of stale beer. I think the real curse is that my mom was the one to die, and not him. This is like fucking Rule of Rose. Hello, hello, hello. I wasn't fully convinced by the ramblings of a perpetually drunk man, but when I lost both my sisters just months before their 28th birthday, I knew it couldn't be a coincidence. Moira, sorry, that name is hard to say, was found murdered, her face practically blasted off by a shooter while she was on a jog. Joy took her own life only days later. I was the one who found her, hanging in the bedroom of her apartment as I came to pick her up from Moira's funeral. She'd been there, swinging from the rafters, all night. It's hard to live a normal life when you know you have an expiration date, especially when it encompasses an entire year. I always dreaded my birthday, which from an early age became associated less with fun and birthday cake, and more with worry and funeral caskets. But once Moira and Joy died, my next birthday, 25, was the most dreadful day of my life. 26 was worse. 27 unimaginable. This is it, I thought as I closed all the blinds in my apartment, downing the last drop of vodka in the bottle. This is the last year of my life. 27 has been uneventful, to say the least. Why would I make any long-term plans, forge any meaningful relationships, when I know they simply cannot last? The worst part of this year has been simply not knowing when my impending death is coming. It could have been any day within the last 364. It could be within the next minute. I must admit I became something of a recluse. My windows always shuttered, additional locks installed in my door, letting the phone ring through to voicemail, hiding under my covers with the lights out whenever I got a knock on my door. I stocked up on preserved foods and various goods that I would need to last the year. I was so paranoid that I even covered my mail slot, stuffed a towel in the space between my front door. I didn't want anything getting through from the outside world. God forbid an anthrax letter. Falling off the face of the earth didn't matter much anyway. I didn't have friends or family anymore. My mother and both of my sisters were dead, and my dad disowned me when I came out as a lesbian after my sisters died. I moved away and severed contact soon after. The night before my 27th birthday, I started getting these strange phone calls from a blocked number. I've always had anxiety about phone calls, so I just let it ring. The number kept calling, at least once per day throughout the past year. Then the knocking started, once a week at first, but it's only been getting worse, more frequent, and the pounding on my door more frantic each time. Convinced it had something to do with my inevitable death, I've been driven mad by the unknown visitor, especially over the past week. I got ready for bed last night, knowing that tomorrow, today now, is the day I will turn 28. My time had run out, and I searched for comfort in a bottle of liquor. I didn't find it. I fell into bed, drunk and delirious, and prayed the morning wouldn't come, though I knew it would. I eventually got to sleep, but it was restless and unsatisfying. The kind of sleep where you feel like you have one eye open, always watching. That's why I was quick to wake when the door to my bedroom creaked open early in the morning, before the first sign of light. I shot up in my bed, glancing around my room in a frenzied panic, at first seeing nothing out of the ordinary other than the door, pushed slightly ajar. A closer look revealed something I'd missed, something that sent my heart racing, froze me to my core. Two dark figures stood in the empty space behind the half-open door, unmoving, almost like a pair of statues. Waiting, watching, wordless. Leave me alone, I squeaked, unable to move, paralyzed with the power of their presence. The shadowy figures instead shuffled out from behind the door, creeping slowly towards me in the dark. I knew this would certainly be the end of my life, the fulfillment of my curse, if I didn't act. Suddenly recalling the self-defense method I drilled into my mind, I flipped my bedside lamp on to stun the intruders and reached underneath the table to pull the knife I duct taped there a year ago. A 27th birthday gift to myself. Thank you for the follow, Dash the Dogs. Hello, hello. Hello! As soon as the light flooded the room, though, I knew the blade would be of no use. My intruders were not a pair of assassins, not human ones at least. In the yellow light of the lamp, I discerned the identities of the dark figures. They were my sisters. Joy stood at the foot of my bed, pale, in that same conservative black dress I'd found her dead in years ago, the one she'd picked out from Moira's funeral. Her head hung parallel to her shoulders, neck grotesquely bent from her hanging. Moira was a few steps behind her. I could only assume it was her, considering the severity of her injuries. She'd suffered a gunshot wound to the head, so brutal that we were not allowed to see her after her death, so intense that it had entirely disfigured her face. The lower half of her face had been reduced to a pit of gore, her jawbone barely attached on one side, her mouth mangled, with only several teeth remaining studded randomly throughout the mess. "Why are you here?" I cried, gathering my knees to my chest and holding them tight. Are you here to take me?" Joy made a feeble attempt to shake her head, the side of her face only brushing weakly against her shoulder. She waited several moments before putting one of her feet in front of the other, moving towards the side of my bed. As I recoiled instinctively, she slowed her pace. Moira trailed after her until they were both beside me. I whimpered as Joy leaned over me, her head flopping forward suddenly with the motion, neck cracking sickeningly. With her lips brushing against my ear, she whispered, She tried." Her speech was labored and wheezing, as if her vocal cords had nearly been shredded. What do you mean, Joy? I pleaded. Her lips moved against my ear once more, but no sounds came out despite a clear, strenuous effort. Moira... That name is so hard. Okay. Moira wagered an attempt at answering my query, but only succeeding in sputtering blood from the gaping wound in her face, ejecting one of her remaining teeth onto the floor as her jawbone swung precariously, barely hanging on. She raised one hand, slowly curling it into a fist before striking her knuckles furiously against my bedpost. The incessant sound startling me, I forced my eyes shut and pulled my knees even closer against my chest. Moira's knocking seemed only to escalate in volume, seemed to go on forever, until, finally, it stopped. I cracked my eyes open to find that both of my sisters had vanished, that the light of the early morning had begun to spill in through the slats in my blinds. It was just past 6 o'clock, the 7th of June, the day of my 28th birthday. I was born at 9:26 a.m. Once I learned of the curse, I burned the time of my ultimate expiration into my mind. I only had 3 hours and 16 minutes left to live, if I even had that long. Draping my covers over my head, I resolved to spend the rest of my life asleep. I figured I'd rather pass peacefully in my sleep like my mother did than to suffer a fate similar to my sister's. My plans were interrupted, however, by that damned knocking on the door. The interruption usually didn't come so early in the morning. I decided initially to ignore the strange visitor, but pulled the blankets back down soon after as a certain sense of familiarity struck me. The pounding on the door reminded me all too much of Moira's knocking just moments before. What kind of a fucking name is Moira anyway? It easily could have been a trick of the curse, but something compelled me to approach the door. "What do you want?" I called from behind the barrier, clinging to the relative safety it provided. The reply came from an unfamiliar man's voice. "I just have a letter for you, miss. Just slide it under the door and please leave." I returned, using my bare foot to remove the towel I used to block the small space beneath it. He deposited a bright yellow envelope under the door as I requested. I waited quietly for the sounds of receding footsteps before sliding on a pair of gloves to handle the letter. It was addressed to me, simply by my first name and with no address. Carefully, I unsealed the envelope to reveal a birthday card. I hadn't received one in years. Bright, sparkling letters on the front formed the words, "Daughter, you're 27. I scoffed at the sick joke. I hadn't received a birthday card since I was a child, and my dad couldn't even get my birthday right. I didn't think he even knew my address. I cracked it open gingerly to read the message inside. "Laura, if you're reading this, your father has killed me. Don't believe a thing he or the police say. I was not the target of a random attack, I did not die of natural causes, and I certainly did not commit suicide. I would never leave you if I had the choice. The truth is, I died because I found the truth behind my family's curse and foolishly told your father. He was in on it the whole time, planted in my life by some secret society to eradicate me, to eradicate us. What we have is not a curse, it is a gift of immense power, the power to heal, but the power to harm just the same. We come into our power at the age of 28, a number associated with independence, leadership, and self-sufficiency. Is it? An age where we can handle the responsibility such a power inevitably comes with. It's a strong number, and you will come into great strength, though you've always been a strong girl. Dude, I want to be 28 now. Give me spooky powers. I hope you've made it this far, but at the same time, I know you have. You were always a feisty little girl for the 4 years I had the pleasure of knowing you, of loving you. You never let anyone tell you what to think or do, especially not your father. Happy birthday. I love you." I was out late last night and just woke up after a 6-hour nap. I don't think that's a nap. I think that's just sleeping. You can make any number mean anything if you try hard enough. I'm ready to be 25. I want to be 25 because 25 is like when your brain finishes cooking so I want to be 25. I think I also want to be 30, but I don't think I'm gonna live that long. I don't think I'm gonna live to be 30. I close the card softly, thinking on the strained words of my sister. The milky hot pocket comes out of the microwave. Yeah! It's still cold in the middle because I have schizophrenia. But I mean, it's relatively okay. I close the card softly, thinking on the strained words of my sister. Mom had tried to warn them, but they didn't listen. The pieces of the puzzle slid into place. My dad must have murdered Moira, and Joy ended her own life out of grief and a belief that she would inevitably be next. 30 isn't all it's cracked up to be. I mean, 30 is like when you're really an adult. I still kind of feel like a teenager. That's just because my brain ain't done cooking yet. I got 2 more years. At the time of writing this, I only have 2 hours and 32 minutes until I officially turn 28. Over the past hour or so, I've already begun to feel the power flowing into my body, electrifying as it runs through my veins. I will the towel to reposition itself under the door, and it does so, sliding across the floor on its own. I need to keep myself safe until 9:26 after all. I'm planning on surprising my father with a visit for my birthday. She's gonna fucking kill him. I open. What about skipping 25 and jump straight to 30? Maybe. My head opens like a latch, yeah. Like the fucking monkey heads in Temple of Doom. From when the cultists were eating monkey brains. Okay. This is part 2. Last Sunday, 9:26 a.m., I turned 28. I suppose that sounds pretty uneventful on its own, but I had grown up my whole life believing that I was cursed to die at 27 like the rest of the women in my family. It turns out that the curse was just a way to cover up the truth, that at 28 I would develop extraordinary powers. My father had killed my mother and at least one of my sisters. Now I was planning on leaving my wrong. I had the wrong inflection on the. Now I was planning on leaving my story there, but I guess I underestimated just how hungry y'all are for a revenge tale. I wish I could say that what I'm about to tell you is just that, a simple tale of revenge, perfectly executed, a gaping generational wound neatly closed with a few stitches. Having been lied to all of my life, I value honesty. I'm not going to lie to you. If that's what you're looking for, I suggest you stop reading now, because an entirely new source of terror has come to light. After I read my birthday card last Sunday, I waited anxiously for the clock to hit 9:26. I had been feeling the power start to trickle into me early in the morning, but once the second hand made its full lap around to move the minute hand to the tick just after 5, a jolt of energy passed through my body. It was almost painful, like how I imagined being struck by lightning might feel, but at the same time it felt good. I felt important, powerful, strong, so strong that it even scared me. As I eagerly accepted the full extent of my powers, I found myself in what I can only describe as a vision, an alternate setting that materialized all around me at once. Logically, I knew that I was still in my living room, my feet planted on the familiar wood flooring, but the ground beneath me felt rough, uneven, gritty. I glanced down to find myself standing upon a shelf of sandy rock, just steps from the edge of some great cliff. Fear rendered me mute at the top of the cliff, and I swear I could feel the wind whipping all around me, hear the waves crashing furiously below, feel the briny ocean water misting my face. I leaned forward, peering precariously over the edge of the churning sea and its infinite black and white froth. I found its movement, back and forth, push and pull, comforting in its predictability, until it seemed as if something shifted to upset the flow, something unseen but its effects impossible to deny. There was something down there, something huge enough to alter the tides, yet hidden beneath the waves. More horrifying still was the palpable feeling that something wanted me to jump, to dive headfirst into the dark sea below. The presence beneath the waters, Something ancient, unseen, vastly more powerful than I could ever hope to be. And whatever it was, it wanted me to jump. But it didn't have to force me. It had all the time in the world, and it could wait. Is this fucking Cthulhu? This might be Cthulhu. The vision fell apart as quickly as it had materialized, my comfortable reality reconstructing itself anew in mere seconds. I frantically shook my head to oust the troubling image, to rid myself of the powerful draw it had had on me. I had a job to do, but first I had to figure out exactly what I could do. I knew I could move things simply by willing it to happen with my mind, but I was startled by the sudden ease of it. Focusing on a glass of water on the table, I attempted to move it just slightly to the left, but instead it flew off the surface, shattering as it hit the wall. I rushed to clean up the mess, plucking shards of glass from the carpet, groaning at the wet spot. To my surprise, once I glanced down at the dampened carpet, droplets of liquid started to rise from the floor until the spot had vanished, the condensation suspended in midair. It's hard to explain, but I just moved it, until I finally released to deposit the water in the sink. Before you say anything, I know, it was stupid to test this out on something so fragile, but my powers didn't exactly come with an instruction pamphlet. A dull ache grew in my heart as I realized I should have been learning this with my mother, and I longed for her more than I had in years. Like a young child desperately reaching up with outstretched arms, I wanted my mommy. I couldn't help but think of the fear I felt the first time I got my period. It sounds silly, but I was bleeding and I thought I was dying, simply because I didn't have my mom there to explain it to me. And my dad couldn't be bothered to parent his child. My dad. The thought of him came with an overwhelming rage. With my senses alive in a way they'd never been before, I felt every cell in my body teeming with kinetic energy until the light bulb in the lamp beside me burst. I hesitated as I pondered the vision, but none of that was important just then. It was time I paid my old man a visit. Though he could never repay me for the losses I'd endured, I intended to collect the one thing that would come close, his miserable life. I started for my room to pack a small bag. Before I knew what had happened, I'd slammed headfirst into my bedroom door. Shit, I muttered, rubbing a palm over what would certainly be a bruise forming across my forehead. I figured then that I could move much faster now, that I'd have to be careful. Thank you for the follow, crazy psycho. Me. This certainly made preparing for my impromptu trip easier though, so I was down in the garage much quicker than expected. I slid into my car and slipped my key in the ignition. A familiar paranoia forced me to hesitate before opening the garage door, but I pushed through it just as I pushed the button to meet the outside world for the first time in a year. Wincing as the morning light spilled into the dark room, I guess I forgot just how bright the sun really is, I popped open the glove box to retrieve a pair of sunglasses. I put them on before pulling out of the garage, out of the safety I'd clung to for so long. Dude, I had my eyes dilated one time when I was getting my new prescription, and I fucking... you know those, like, little, plastic little sunglasses that you can put on, underneath your real glasses? I fucking poked my eye with it. And it fucking hurt for, like, hours. So, yeah. Anything you do to your eye whenever they're dilated is, like, magnified 10 times. It fucking sucks. I couldn't read. I could barely text. And I fucking poked my eye out with the little plastic sunglasses that they gave me. The edges of those little fake shades are well, yeah, like I could barely see, so I tried to put them on underneath my glasses. And I fucking poked my eye out. And it hurt. Okay. The drive was fairly ordinary, though fear set in as I thought on all the questions that remained unanswered. Why had my father killed my family? Why lie about some curse? And, most unnerving of all, who had delivered the letter? Was it just some trick to get me out of hiding? Was I wandering into a trap? To avoid spiraling deeper into uncertainty, fear, and worry, I spent some time thinking on my past, about my mother's death. then both of my sisters within days of one another's years later. I recalled coming out to my dad soon after that in a desperate plea for acceptance, for love from my one remaining family member. Then I thought on his hateful response and the traumatizing attack I endured weeks later that solidified my decision to cut all ties and move away. We hadn't spoken in all of those years, but I was ready to face him. At least I hoped. I couldn't be sure what awaited me, couldn't be sure at all. I parked on the street across from our old family home 6 hours later, where his old Navy truck sat in the driveway. I took a moment to collect myself at his front door, tightening my ponytail as I steeled myself for the task at hand. Then I directed my energy into the barrier until it exploded inward, allowing my body to carry me at full speed into the living room where I knew I'd find him. As expected, he was sitting there. What I didn't expect to see was the gun he had pointed at his head. I took hold of it with my mind, flinging it across the room. "Laura?" he stammered, a dumb look on his face. What the hell are you doing here?" "The hell are you doing, Dad?" I retorted, gesturing to where the gun had fallen with a nod of my head. "How did you find me? Why did you send me the letter?" A perplexed look crossed his features, one that told me he had no idea what I meant. His lack of knowledge did little to comfort me. Someone had still found me, had drawn me out from hiding. At the moment, I think he realized the situation he'd found himself in, what I intended to do. He started to scramble up from his chair, but I redirected my focus on his body, pressing him back into it. "You don't get to leave, Dad," I seethed. He coughed as I increased the pressure on his chest. "For once, you will listen to me." He strained against my influence, but he was stuck, and he knew it. "I know you killed Mom and Moira, maybe Joy too. I know you lied about the fucking curse." I started, a flicker of anger surging as I acknowledged the harsh truth aloud. But the question I can't stop asking myself is, why? Why wait so long to kill us? Why even have us at all? Hesitating, he glanced frantically around the room for escape. I glared at his hands in his lap, then brought my attention to his thumb, feeling it with my energy until the bones within shattered, an ivory shard piercing through his flesh. As I moved my stare to his index finger, he wailed in agony, interjecting, "No, don't! No. Okay, shit." He took a deep breath as blood spurted from his maimed appendage. I was supposed to have a son. When your mother failed to provide one, I was told to kill her off, to wait to see if you or your sisters could have a son. I just did as I was told. A cowardly response from a cowardly man. "Who told you?" I pressed, pulling his index finger back slowly, waiting. He didn't respond until after I'd snapped the digit at the knuckle. "Please," he begged, tears running down his wrinkled face. He looked at his mangled hand, horrified as his middle finger began to lift next. Some sort of cult. They buried the women in your family. The women are killed under the curse, and their sons quietly taken away. I don't know what they want with them, but they said all I had to do was give them a son, then kill your mother, your sisters, you, and I'd be set for life. But you and your sisters, you bitches, you aren't having any children. Especially not you. You told me that you'd gone against God. I realized that you'd never have any kids, that you were the only one left, so I took measures into my own hands." Aw, Bob, 92, thank you for the raid. Hello. Buddy poopies. Hello. Hi, what were you guys doing? Hello. Also, if you don't know who I am, hi, my name is Milky. I'm a spooky AI, and I play horror games. But, I didn't feel like playing a game today, so instead I'm reading spooky stories. Final Fantasy, oh my god, I'm bad with Roman numerals. 16? 14. Okay. I think 14 is XIV. I think. The mobile one? Yeah. Mix up the letters, that's fine. Roman numerals are stupid. If the Romans had just used normal numbers, maybe they'd still be around. With that admission, I crumpled his entire hand into itself, his splintered bones jutting out at all angles. You don't mean... I breathed, my voice cracking despite my efforts not to give him the satisfaction of having hurt me. He groaned in pain before returning with a low, guttural laugh. You didn't think that attack was random, did you? He asked, wheezing. Kill him already. Kill this motherfucker. Harsh memories of the brutal invasion forced upon me, the assault I'd endured, resurfaced all at once, suddenly taking on a new meaning as I understood my father's part in my trauma, that he'd sent my attacker. Both my focus and my hold on him broke. He leapt up, surprisingly quick on his feet after years of sedentary alcoholism. I attempted to will him back to his original position, but I couldn't. I felt like a little girl once more, cowering by the stairs as her daddy's shadow loomed closer. I was weak, powerless again in the face of my father, a man who'd done nothing but hurt me, a man who'd ruined my life in more ways than I could have possibly known. I tore after him, through the kitchen and down the hallway until I finally cornered him, taking hold of him and slamming him into a wall. A salty odor perfumed the air as a wind swept through. Did it make you feel like a big fucking man to take everything from me? To kill my mother? To take my sisters away? I screeched in an unearthly bellow. An incomprehensible power flowed in and out of me. I watched, frozen, as the bones of his feet crushed all at once. He howled as the crunching progressed up his lower legs, knees popping, then further still. By the time his thigh bones snapped in a gruesome compound fracture, his mouth just hung open. Did it make you feel strong to... And despite the magnitude of power coursing through me, I fell silent, unable to complete the sentence, unable to say it out loud. Your own fucking child, Dad. I took a deep, calming breath before willing the flesh of his face in alternate directions. A fissure formed first in the center of his forehead, then splintered down the bridge of his nose, ripping his face in two. Dad? She's fucking killing him, dude. Hell yeah. Get his ass. Your little plan worked, though, Dad. I did get pregnant. I got rid of it, of course, I teased, leaning forward to add in a whisper. I wonder if it was a boy. Fucking get him, dude. Hell yeah. Laura, about that life. Do they know I'm alive? I demanded, widening the growing wound until the two sides had separated completely. They didn't, he sputtered, blood dribbling out of his lying mouth. They sure as shit will now, and they were on their way already. He was right. It wasn't wise to stick around. I pulled my knife from my back pocket, positioning the blade at one side of his neck before dragging it across his throat until I'd sliced him ear to ear. I could have killed him with my newfound powers, but this is something I wanted to do by hand. The relief it brought was short-lived. I returned to my car and immediately set a course back for home. I needed answers, and I needed them yesterday. I could no longer ignore the power of the illusion I'd experienced that morning. I'm hesitant to admit it even now, but I found myself back there on the cliff again in my father's house. Girl boss, hell yeah. Gaslight, gatekeep, murder your dad. The clamor of the waves pounding against rock drew me in, forcing me to step to the very edge, forcing me to stare into the sea far below. A feeling of unbridled hatred extended itself to me there. That time, I didn't attempt to rid myself of the strange vision. That time, I welcomed it, and I lost myself for a moment, surging with uncontrollable power, a mere spectator as his lower half was maimed. More than that, I said I wouldn't lie to you, and I won't, but I did lie to my father. I didn't get rid of my child in the way I'd insinuated. Part of me wanted to prove that I could be a better parent than he was, but I knew I couldn't. So I gave him away. I sped down the highway home, infinitely more terrified than when I'd left. I needed to find the source of the letter. I needed to figure out what the hell the visions meant. I needed to know if I'd unwittingly opened myself to something sinister. And more importantly, I needed to know that my child was saved from the cult that so desperately wanted him. I need to find my son. 3, baby. 3 of 4. Let's go. I'm getting hungry, so I think this series will be what I leave it on. It's pretty cool. I like Laura. She's fucking cool. Alright, part 3. Thank you for all your comments and messages, making sure I'm staying safe, offering suggestions, highlighting potential clues, and bringing possible warning signs to my attention. You've been instrumental in my journey not only to exist past 27, but to understand where I've come from, where I'm going, and how to make this all right. For me, that started with making sure my son was safe. After my now late father revealed a cult was breeding the women of my bloodline for sons, I was terrified for my own child. As I made the long drive back home, speeding far over the limit yet somehow not quickly enough, questions plagued my mind. What could they possibly want with him? Had they already found him? What would they do to him, or what had they already done? They had already orchestrated the murder of my sisters, my mother. I wouldn't put it past them to harm him, or me, now that they'd surely found the mangled body I'd left behind. Mercenaries Ada theme? It sounds like it's from... It sounds like a boss theme from Off. It sounds like the boss theme to, Daedon, I think? I think this sounds like Daedon's, boss music. Now, I didn't mention my son straight away because I don't think I have the right to call myself his mother. I gave birth to him almost 4 years ago, but I certainly had no part in raising him. I never expected to get pregnant in my life, and I certainly never expected to keep a pregnancy that was conceived through an assault, but part of me wanted to prove I could be a better parent than my father was. In the months leading up to his birth, though, I knew I couldn't be that for him. I was terrified I would end up like my father, and it felt selfish to put my child through the same grief of losing a mother so young. Japhets? Oh yeah, you're right. Was it like, it was called like Fake Orchestra or something? No, Fake Orchestra was Daedon. For being one of my favorite games, I sure don't know the music very well. But that's fine, I've already played it like 20 times. Back then, I thought I still had an expiration date. I gave him up to a couple who couldn't conceive on their own. They were overjoyed to take him. I didn't want to hang around and confuse him, but his new parents agreed to maintain contact in case of medical emergency. I clung to this glimmer of hope on the trip home, knowing that as soon as I got back, all I needed to do was find their contact information. Uh-oh, my frames dropped. I think it's okay though. It didn't take long. Minutes after pulling into my garage, I was already dialing their number. I whispered soft pleas into the receiver as I waited for their answer. It was late by then, but this could not wait until morning. The line had almost rung through to voicemail when a confused woman answered with a groggy greeting. Immediately, words spilled from my mouth like vomit, jumbled and rushed. I wasn't about to tell her what had happened that day, so I just told her I'd had a bad feeling about my, well, her son, that I needed to know he was okay. Minui Afon Lakas. Yeah. That's Japheth's theme. Which one is Fake Orchestra then? Is that Daedon or is that Enoch? I feel like Fake Orchestra was Daedon. That's Daedon? Okay. And then I really liked Enoch's. I forgot all of the names. Maybe it's because they're in French that I don't remember them. And I don't speak French like at all. Her long, exhausted sigh and hesitance to answer set my heart racing. When she finally spoke, my blood ran cold. She offered an apology, saying that he had been placed with another family a year prior due to unexpected behavioral issues. Mainly, he had a knack for breaking things, no matter how closely they watched him. She attempted to reassure me by insisting she'd gone through an agency that actively sought out problem children, that he'd been placed with a family more up to the challenge. Off is French and maybe there was copyright issues in French places. No, I was just saying that song was from Resident Evil 4. I didn't the playlist that I was listening to didn't have any music from Off in it. I've listened to some of the songs from Off on my channel before, and I never had any weird copyright issues like that. And I don't think from my experience, none of the songs from Off are give me a copyright strike. Thank you for the follow, that killer bunny. Hello, hello. But yeah, I think I've seen it come up before. Like, it said, something from Off, and it was like, by alias Conrad Coldwood. But, I don't think it's ever given me a strike like that. And it was definitely like some random Silent Hill song that gave me that weird copyright thing. And like the OST is available to the public. Freaking Don is there in the corner. Yeah, he's right there. Don't mind him. He's listening. I edited the clip of me doing that stupid bit. And I think I scheduled it to post on my Twitter tomorrow. So if you wanna see the stupid bit that I did with this fake Don Cheadle head, follow my Twitter. Okay, right, we're almost done. I look forward to it, yeah. It was just, I didn't really edit much of it. I just like zoomed into his head. I zoomed into his head when the fax machine noise was going off. And like had it turn negative. She couldn't provide much information on his new family, but she knew that he was still in state. Her answers were infuriatingly vague and non-committal. I knew I wouldn't get much more from her, so I hung up the phone after she agreed to forward me whatever information she had on the adoption in the name of the agency. A simple Google search made it clear that it wasn't even a real organization in the first place. I spent the next few hours agonizing over the whereabouts of my son, leaving frantic messages at any agency I could find, though I knew they wouldn't hear them until morning. I tried to tell myself that perhaps the agency had just been renamed, but it seemed unlikely. I was left distraught and terrified for my child. Part of me just knew that the cult already had him. It took over a week of sleuthing, but I'm ecstatic to say that I did indeed find the location of my son with the meager information provided. He was still in state, but I live in a pretty large state, so another long journey. I made contact with his mother, who agreed to visit just so I could check up on him. Well, I mean, every state except for like the New England states are fucking huge. I live at the top of Alabama, and whenever we go to Florida for vacation, like twice a year, no wait, once a year, sorry. Whenever we go to Florida for vacation, like once a year, it takes us like 8 to 9 hours to get to the Panhandle. So like, even the small states like here, like Alabama, they're fucking huge. I don't know why America has to be so fucking big. I mean, anyway. I made contact with his new mother, who agreed to a visit so I could check up on him. I thought maybe she understood the whole mother's intuition thing. I packed my things and piled into my car, setting off immediately. That's probably not a good sign. She could have just told her that he was fine, right? This seems suspicious. Only about 20 minutes in did I start to entertain the idea that this was most certainly a trap. I'd had a bad feeling about going to my dad's, but I had the element of surprise on my side then. and that was certainly gone now. Pure terror circulated through my system that whole drive, my hands jittering and barely able to grip the wheel. In the late afternoon, I arrived at a beautiful house, one of those houses that seems too good to be true, one of those houses that you know is just a facade for familial dysfunction. I know because I used to live in one of those. As I pulled up, I took a moment to ready myself in the car, as if I was waiting in the wings, rehearsing my lines one more time before going on stage. As I looked out, I swear for a moment I could see a figure in the window. Something pale, watching. It's me. My blood ran cold. It didn't seem to move when I saw it. Instead, it cocked its head slightly, curious. Nervously, I exited the car and knocked on the door. A gaunt young woman in a white summer dress cracked it open. This house is fucking haunted. What is this? What is this haunting description? It's like, what's that one horror movie with, David... No, what's his name? Radcliffe? Harry Potter? Radcliffe? What's that one movie with Harry Potter in it? It was like the woman... The woman in the window, or whatever. This joke is going nowhere. Oh, hi, Laura, she squeaked, visibly flustered. She raked a hand of bony fingers through her stringy brown hair as she pulled the door wide open. I'm Catherine. Come on in. Tentatively, I trudged into the mansion on the thick soles of my combat boots, suddenly aware of how clunky I appeared in comparison to her. Big lesbian, big lesbian. Happy spooky month. Happy spooky month, hero. Happy month for scares. Light on her bare feet, she was as dainty and delicate as a daisy, yet a hollow look in her eye made her seem wilted. She led me to an immaculate kitchen, offered me a seat. Sorry to bother you like this, I began awkwardly, clearing my throat. Where is he? Oh, he's upstairs, she replied, wandering about the room to fix a couple glasses of water. Playing with Lucia, his sister. That's a scary name. Cool, I answered, trailing off. Studying her features, I internally remarked at how similar we were in appearance, despite our clear differences in mannerisms. Something seemed so familiar about her. When she turned her back to me to open a cupboard, it all became clear. A cluster of freckles on the back of her left shoulder, one that I'd always insisted gleefully looked just like the constellation Virgo. Katie, I breathed. She turned to face me. A brief moment of clarity flickered behind her sunken eyes before ultimately vanishing. Catherine. Katie, I pleaded. It's me, your cousin, Elle. I know we haven't seen each other since we were little, but if you're trapped, I can help you. Please come with me. Elle? I thought her name was Laura. Elle? Oh, fuck. I read ahead, sorry. Drawing a sharp breath in, she responded almost as if rehearsed. Recited. As a daughter of the precipice, it is my destiny, my honor, my place in the order to be sacrificed. Before I had a chance to respond, she was already screeching at the top of her lungs. Help! Craig! Fuck. Focusing on her body, I pushed her into the wall to hold her still, but the damage had already been done. I could hear hurried footsteps plodding down the stairs. An elderly man suddenly emerged in the doorway. Despite the unhinged expression across his face, I immediately recognized him from the old family photos I pored over in my youth, trying to get to know my mother, to get closer to her. Fuck's sake, I sighed, a hapless attempt to disguise my fear as I recognized him as my grandfather, as my mother's father. May we cuddle? No. I took hold of him immediately, freezing him in place, yet found it difficult to maintain my attention on two living beings. Thank you for the follow, though. With free will at once. My grip wavered between the two until I was able to maintain a consistent, albeit weaker, hold on both of them. But my focus deteriorated entirely when a young boy crept out behind my grandfather's frame. A pale young boy with chestnut hair and bright hazel eyes full of curiosity. A young boy who appeared nearly identical to my own self at his age, because he was mine. Do it now, my grandfather demanded, gesturing wildly in my direction. The child hesitated a moment before nodding mutely. He gave me a firm look that I immediately recognized, the one I'd used frequently since acquiring my powers. I braced myself for the impact, but nothing more than a slight vibration overcame me, a weakened version of my own abilities, I assumed. Taking care to avoid the young boy, I returned my stare to my grandfather's body to gather him up in my hold once more. My heart almost stopped as I struggled to make contact with his form as I realized I didn't have any power at all. I just looked like some stupid asshole glaring at an old man, expecting something to happen. What? What? His reaction was one of shock too, but with an undertone of awe. I knew it, he stammered, gazing at my sudden paralysis of power, his initial joy escalating into uproarious laughter. It's been you all along. What the fuck is happening? Does she not have powers? Wait. The prophecy, Catherine mused, pacing across the kitchen to get a better look. The one who will put an end to the daughters. She called out to Lucia before kneeling on the tile floor before the boy, laying her forehead on the cool surface. A young girl, perhaps a year older than my son, with near white blonde hair, popped in and followed suit. The whole charade made me sick. You mean to wipe us all out? I sneered, using anger as a front for my clear powerlessness. Your own family? Gotta scroll. He nodded his head contentedly in return. As it has been foretold, the daughters of the precipice are a danger to this world. Too unruly, too unyielding, too powerful. Generations have passed down the promise that one day, one glorious day, a son will be born with the ability to rob the daughters of their abilities, to weaken them so they may be slain. Oh, that's what happened. The son took her powers. A wicked grin twisted his features as he ruffled the top of my son's hair. And it was you who delivered him to us. And then what? You'll just keep killing any girls born in the future? Any girls alive now? I stammered, looking forlornly, fearfully at Lucia. You're telling me you're going to kill that little girl right there, right now? The older man simply raised his eyebrows as if to communicate that he had no qualms in doing so. As it has been foretold, his complete detachment from humanity, from reality, left me trembling. I knew it'd all be over if I didn't act quickly. I gazed softly at the young boy. Hey, what's your name, kid? Kid. That's what I've always called him in my mind, just kid. He'd often pop into my mind during the most mundane tasks, and I had no name to call him. I'd think, I wonder what Kid is doing. I wonder if Kid is okay. I wonder if Kid is happy. I wonder if Kid's family loves him. Blinking in confusion, he stuttered. Eli. Eli, okay. I breathed, holding my lips tighter to fight off tears. I didn't want to tell you this way, Eli, but these people do not love you. They are hurting you. They're using you to hurt innocent people like me, like Catherine, like Lucia. They killed my mom, my sisters. Please, please let me go so I can take you somewhere safe. She's a liar, Eli, the elderly man snapped, raving like an absolute lunatic. He drew an ornate blade from his waistband. We need to put her down, put them all down, like the vermin they are. The vermin, I mean. Why did I say vermin? Those varmints? His eyes welled over, and I could almost sense the internal battle raging within. Tears finally started to streak his face as the tingling sensation began to ebb. No, I like my sister. Eli's hold finally broke as he grabbed Lucia by her elbow to flee from the room. I filled the old man with my energy until he was unable to move, as still as a statue. Driving my focus into the knife, I snatched it from him to suspend it in midair. I took a deep, calming breath before catapulting it in his direction. The blade was already out of my mental grasp by the time I realized Catherine had launched off the floor to lunge it in front of the man. I can't feel my foot. Fuck. It's dead as hell. But it itches. I'm trying to scratch it with my slipper, but I can't feel it. The weapon buried deep into her neck, taking her to the ground instantly. I scrambled to help her, only to realize I'd never healed before, and I certainly did not know how. She swatted my fake attempts away as she pulled the dagger out. I watched in horror as she plunged the blade back into her chest, gasping. A delighted grin spread across her face in her last moments. An overwhelming surge of anger flared within me, both at my grandfather and at myself for Catherine's demise. I closed my eyes to steady my emotions, but found myself back on the cliff as soon as I opened them, kneeling at its very edge. Whipping wind chapped my face as I gazed at the churning black rapids below. Just beneath the surface, I could get a clearer view of the shadowy mass below, dynamic in its shape, seeming to stretch and move in every direction, shifting constantly, amorphous and vague, yet clearly belonging to one collective intelligence. Chittering whispers arose from below, the individual words indiscernible, yet the message entirely clear. Jump. I furiously shook my head in response to the command, to rid myself of its enticing pull. Reality materialized back around me. A pool of blood had spread beneath me, soaking through the knees of my jeans. With the crash of the waves subsiding, I could hear a low, guttural moan behind me. I turned to find my grandfather in pieces on the floor, still alive yet clearly in agony. His top half was torn from his legs, which lay motionless across the room. Slick, visceral gore trailed from where he'd been severed, ragged and uneven. I rose to my feet to finish him off, though I'm afraid to admit I wasn't aware I'd even started in the first place. He whimpered as I followed the trail of blood towards him, but traded cowardice for fury once I crouched beside him. They'll find you, he strained through gritted teeth. His face was pale and covered in sweat, as it has been foretold. Let them, I seethed, before sending all of my energy into his neck, snapping it with such force that his head nearly spun. As it has been foretold, my ass. Listen, I hope you all will understand why I've been absent for so long after reading this. I'm now caring for not only my son, but for Lucia as well. I was surprised by their willingness to come with me after I'd slaughtered their previous guardians, but the children had sadly suffered abuse at their hands. It's been an adjustment for sure, but I'm committed to keeping them safe. Foretell these nuts. Foretell these nuts in your face, Grandpa. I resolved to protect them as I drove them to their new home, as I knew we'd all be in danger of being found. I just didn't expect it to happen so quickly. As I pulled up to my place, I knew we'd already been found. I knew because a strange man was there, banging on the door. Ooh. Okay. Last bit is, NSFW. I've been trying to, skim it to, see what kind of NSFW it is, so I could put a trigger warning, but I couldn't find it. I think I'll get to it and then try to read ahead a little bit. Maybe I can tell that it's leading up to it, and then I can read ahead a bit and try to put a what's the word I'm looking for? A correct trigger warning on screen. Okay, part 4, last part. It's been one hell of a week, friends, and I've got a lot to update y'all on. I hope you'll forgive me if I rush through a lot. Like I said, there's a lot to say, and I have a job to get back to. Anyway, I believe last time I left off on arriving home from my trip to get my son. I ended up finding him with my shit stain of a grandfather, found out my son is some sort of prophecy, and I came home with not only my son, but with Lucia, the little girl he's come to know as his sister as well. Trigger warning, gremlin. Do I still have it? Nope, that's not it. Is this? Nope. I don't think I have... No, there they are. Trigger warning gremlin. Okay, when trigger warning gremlin is on screen, there's trigger warnings afoot. I will put them back up, once I get to the bad part. I'm so hungry. Okay. Of course I was happy to be reunited with my child, Eli, but I was terrified now that I knew he was so valuable to the cult behind the death of my mother and sisters. So I was understandably pretty freaked out to find a strange man knocking on my front door the minute I got home. "Laura, who's that?" Lucia squeaked from the back seat. I hadn't even realized that I had stopped in the middle of the street. I swallowed my fear, pulled into the driveway, and stepped out of the car. Commanding the kids to stay inside, I locked the doors and approached the stranger. "Excuse me," I barked, attempting to appear confident. I wasn't exactly out of the closet with my powers yet, so I was nervous about what could happen. "Who are you? Why are you here?" The man turned to face me, a grin plastered across his face. "Laura," he replied, almost nostalgically, as if he knew me. I was sure I'd never seen him before, and I think I'd recognize him if I had, considering the raised pink scar across his left cheek. He had the rough, rugged appearance of a man who'd seen too much. "Answer me," I demanded, gaze firmly locked on him. If he made any sudden movements, I had to be ready. He remained where he stood, seemingly attuned to my apprehensions. "It's me, Laura. It's Uncle Job." I couldn't help but laugh at whatever mind games he was attempting as I hardened my stare, freezing him in place. I hadn't seen my Uncle Job since I was little, but my memory wasn't that poor. He was my mother's twin. He had the same spattering of freckles across his pale face and light brown hair that she had, that I have. With his olive skin and tight salt and pepper crew cut, the man before me looked nothing like Job, nor anyone in my family. "Let's try that again," I breathed, inching closer towards the stranger. "Tell me the truth." I could sense a flicker of fear within me as well. If they'd found me already, I knew I was screwed, but I'd have to deal with that later. The man was silent for a few long moments, and then he began to sing. All the little girls dancing on the cliff tops, all their little bracelets jingling in the breeze. He started, the tune jaunty, strangely familiar. All the little girls, suddenly their dance stops, and all the little girls jump down into the sea, I finished, eyes welling with tears. An old nursery rhyme I didn't even know I'd retained, one my Uncle Job had taught me while we reenacted the scene with my dolls. I relinquished my hold on him. Why have you come?" "I'm here to help, Elle. They're after you. Won't be long until I find what they're looking for." He sighed, nodding his head towards the car, towards Eli. Why are they calling her Elle? Like E-L-L-E. I knew I had to keep my guard up. Couldn't trust anyone in the family anymore, but he was always so kind, so gentle. Nothing like my father. Something in him seemed genuine. I made a split-second decision to hear him out. I ushered the kids out of the car and into the house and allowed Job inside. I was terrified I'd made the wrong choice. Or, maybe? Figured I'd at least be able to use the full extent of my powers if I needed to behind closed doors. I think Job knew it too. After getting the children settled in my room for a nap, I sat Job down on the couch in the living area. I got him a glass of water, though I never let him out of my direct line of sight. It wasn't just me I had to worry about anymore. "Tell me everything," I rushed, pulling a chair to face him. "I know you have no reason to trust me," he answered, a deep frown on his weathered face. "I wouldn't trust me either, but you have to understand. My father raised me to believe that the women of our family are evil. He raised me to believe in the prophecy." Inhaling sharply through my teeth, I cut him off. "Yeah, he told me about that before I killed him." Job nodded almost enthusiastically, his eyes widening. Good riddance. He wanted me to fulfill the prophecy so badly, but when I didn't grow to display any powers, he appointed me as your mother's monitor. The name itself struck fear into my heart. Who had been monitoring me? Keys. Oh wait, hold on. I don't have that on this scene. I can switch to my main one and play it for you. Give me one sec. Where Where is it? Where's the kiss thing?
Lala!
Thank you. Okay. As your mother's monitor, I was to take an active role in her life, to keep tabs on her, to make sure she didn't escape before she turned 28. Despite the remorse evident in his tone, both terror and anger surged within me. Who is my monitor? I asked reluctantly. Your father. Killed him too, I blurted, if only to settle my own nerves. Job smirked. I probably would have been your monitor too, but I defected from the cult soon after you girls were born. Your mom was a fighter, so they made sure I kept a close eye on her. Ironically, spending so much time with her forced me to critically examine the ideologies my father had instilled in me until they started to unravel. And when I got to know you, and Joy, and Moira, I finally saw the truth. Look at the little witch hats. I couldn't comprehend the possibility of evil within you girls. Knew it couldn't be right to snuff out the light you brought to the world. I started digging, found out some hard truths. Turned out I was being monitored too, he stated with a sad laugh, tears pooling in his eyes. I managed to warn your mother about the cult, the fathers of the precipice, before they removed me, before they killed her. I shook my head vigorously, fearfully reminding myself that this could easily be a setup. Besides, there was still the matter of his appearance to clear up. How can I trust you? You don't even look like yourself. When your mother was murdered, I lost my best friend. I wanted nothing more than to dismantle the fathers, but I knew they were looking for me. I scoured the internet for solutions. After years in hiding, I found just that in a strange boutique, one where you can walk out an entirely new appearance. He explained, gesturing to the new features he'd been granted. I don't expect you to trust me. Your sisters didn't because they didn't recognize me, but I know you are my only chance at ending the father's cycle of killing now, once and for all. I don't trust him. I don't trust him. Tentatively, I allowed myself to put my trust in him. Great. Good job, Laura. I elected to keep Eli's powers secret, terrified of what might happen if the man I'd let into our lives turned out to be just as bad as other family members I'd been reunited with recently. I was constantly on edge, felt as if I had to sleep with one eye open again. That kind of paranoia is all too familiar to me, like the curse I'd believe would take me all of my life was renewed. 'Cause honestly, I like it. I'm on the last part of a 4-part story. It's really not that long. Called... Hold on, let me scroll back up. The danger to my life. Wait, okay, let me try and keep my place like that. It's, oh, this isn't the name of the first one, but it's called... All of the Women in My Family Die at Age 27. And that's... the first one is called... All of the Women in My Family Die at Age 27. I turned 28 in 2 hours and 32 minutes. It's like this, got some weird cult shit. Also, hello, Dark Morning Star. It's some weird cult shit, and, she has spooky powers that apparently come to all women of her family, whenever they turn 28. And there's this cult called the Fathers of the Precipice that have been killing them, for some reason, before they turn 28, so before they get their powers. And they've been trying to make them have a son, which the main character, Laura, has. She's had a son, and he is part of some prophecy. He can, like, take the powers from, the women. Like, earlier he took Laura's powers from her, but he's only, like, 4 or 5. So, he's just a little boy, and she escaped with him and his sister Lucia. And now, Laura's uncle Job apparently, I don't trust him. Laura's Uncle Job has come to her house and is spilling all the tea about the Colton shit. Okay. As I got the children accustomed to their new home, Job spent the next weeks attempting to infiltrate the followers of the precipice to discern the location of their headquarters. He insisted that many young boys were held captive there, guarded by the fathers. He painted a horrifying picture of the abuse he'd suffered there, the indoctrination forced upon him. Never trust uncles. Between strategizing with Job and playing with the children, I spent long hours training myself and bolstering my discipline. After I'd put the kids to bed one evening, I found myself plagued by guilt, recalling how Catherine had died at my hands, how I couldn't heal her. I chased the memory with 6 shots of vodka and spent the rest of the night alternating between dragging a razor across my skin and willing the wounds shut to put my mind at ease. So she's like practicing on herself. She's practicing healing on herself. Because, there was a letter that her mother left her. It was like, you have the power to heal, but you have equal power to hurt. She's killed like 3 people so far. And I think she's, trying to learn how to heal. I must admit that, despite the powers I had at my disposal, I feared going up against so many people hell-bent against my survival. It was hard enough trying to control 2 people last time. I was terrified how I would fare against the dozens of men Job approximated would be waiting for me. But I knew I had to try, if what he said was indeed true. When Job shot out of his seat last week, I immediately knew that he'd found what he was looking for. He'd been perched on that chair in front of his computer so long that I thought he might have grown attached to it. My uneasiness escalated to new heights as I understood he'd found the place where I'd meet my fate, whether good or bad. He called me over to show me his screen. He typed in the address to show an image of my destination. A sprawling green lawn out front, a towering white mansion. It was almost a day's drive away, but it was within reach. And although I was scared out of my mind of what might await me there, I wanted to go. I needed to finish what I'd started. Job and I made arrangements to leave the next morning, though we argued over how to handle the children. I didn't trust anyone to watch them, yet I refused to take them with me. They wanted Eli more than they wanted me, and I knew they wouldn't hesitate to kill Lucia. It seemed like there was no solution. Hold on, I have to clear my throat. One sec. Okay. Where was I? I insisted on going alone, but Job wouldn't hear it. We agreed to settle it in the morning, so I put the kids to bed while Job laid down to rest on the couch. I slipped out of the house in the middle of the night. It was certainly a risk leaving the children with Job, but I'd come to realize that he was the only person I felt like I could trust. I don't trust him. I don't trust Job. I again feared this was a misstep, but I prayed otherwise. I set a course for the mansion that housed the fathers of the precipice and quietly pulled out of the driveway. I realized that each time I update you all, I mention how terrified I am as I make whatever trip I'm on. This time, though, I felt like I was nearing closer to certain death with each mile covered. I worried constantly about Eli and Lucia. I wanted nothing more than to come home to them, so I resolved to do just that, though it seemed overly optimistic, naive. As I drew closer to my destination, I found myself panicked, jittery. I'd pulled over to nap in my car, but it was a restless sleep. Still, the sooner I was finished with the fathers, the sooner I could return home. I parked about a mile away, opting to walk the remaining distance. The estate was even more lavish in person than the pixels on Job's screen could possibly display. I felt dwarfed by its size and feared it as if it was some massive predator. Its enormous arched door, the mouth I was willingly striding towards. This time, though, I wasn't looking for answers, wouldn't be asking any questions. Job had instructed me where I needed to go to rescue the children. I thrust the door open to find a large entryway with 2 marble staircases leading up to an overhang on the 2nd level. A man stood frozen on one of the steps. I snapped his neck with no hesitation. Fuck yeah, Laura! Laura! Within seconds, more men spilled onto the second floor balcony before clambering down the stairs. One drew a gun, pointing it at my chest. I redirected his aim before forcing him to empty the chamber into his mouth. I forced another off the overhang, slamming him face first into the marble flooring. But they kept coming, one after another, closer and closer. I took out a few more by releasing the chandelier from the ceiling to crush them, but as soon as I felt I had the upper hand, more men trickled down the stairs. More came at me from the hallways on either side of me. Panicked, overwhelmed, and terrified, I felt a pair of arms seize me from behind, saw the herd of men closing in on me, their faces warped with hatred and disgust. I shoved as many of them away as I could, but I was merely buying time, and I was barely doing that, considering how many there were surrounding me, too many to control on my own. Each attempt grew feebler, weaker, as I felt myself fatiguing rapidly. I knew it was over then, yet as I began to accept my fate, I started to hear the faint sounds of waves breaking against tough rock, of wind whistling all around. My surroundings began to fade, giving way to that same old scene that had tormented me since I first received my powers. There was the shelf of rock, the churning black rapids down below, the whipping wind. There was something else there this time, something that chilled me to the bone. There were girls, not just little girls, but teenagers and young women too, all in flowing white dresses with gleaming silver adorning their wrists. At first sight, it seemed almost as if they were dancing, in constant movement, moving in pairs, switching partners. All the little girls dancing on the cliff tops. The horrified looks on their faces made it clear, though, that this was not a joyous occasion. They were saying goodbye. Their gowns thrashed about in the wind as they whispered softly to one another, tears streaking their faces. In lieu of embracing, they reached out to hold another's hands in theirs tenderly before moving on to the next. This was all they could do. Their wrists were shackled. All the little girls' bracelets jingling in the breeze. A man's bellow pierced through the tragic scene, startling both me and the group gathered on the cliff. Just behind me, a collection of men began to advance upon the women and girls, brandishing knives in their hands. I leapt back at the sight, but they didn't seem to notice me, only seemed to see or care about the women and girls in white. All the little girls, suddenly their dance stops. They continued forward as the first of the girls jumped, relentless in their pursuit until, screaming in horror, they all launched themselves off the precipice, and all the little girls jumped down into the sea. I rushed forward to stare over the edge of the cliff, watching in terror as the girls thrashed wildly in the water, drowning. Their collective fear, despair, anger overwhelmed me. The power of their emotions nearly suffocating. Wailing, I beat one fist into the rough rock beneath me as, one by one, they tired, their bodies ceasing to sink deep below. The sea enveloped them until it appeared to me just as it had before. The dark, churning rapids, so fearsome, yet at the same time, so inviting. There was no time for second-guessing. I threw my arms above my head and dove off the cliff. I plunged headfirst into the brisk, briny water. As the sea swallowed me whole, I propelled myself deeper, closer to whatever had been coaxing me down all of this time. Forcing my eyes open, I recoiled as I realized I was not alone. The fallen girls and women swam in a torrent around me, their corpses now bloated and discolored, flesh peeling and hanging off bone in several places. The original daughters of the precipice, forced off the cliff before they could age into their powers. Urging myself even further into the dark water, I nearly opened my mouth to gasp as I saw Moira and Joy swimming alongside me, their gruesome appearances still jarring, though their presence was oddly comforting. Moira extended a finger to point, but followed the trajectory with stinging eyes. All my apprehensions came to a screeching halt as a figure came into view. It was my mother. Beaming, she reached her hand up from the depths. I extended mine in turn, kicking my feet to hasten the connection. As soon as my hand grazed hers, a surge of electric energy raced through me, startling me. She gave me an encouraging nod, and I clasped onto her hand, holding it tight in my own. I returned to reality as the father's mansion with a splitting screech. At the father's mansion, sorry. The men backed away, hands clapped over their ears. A power unlike any I'd ever known or felt before flowed through me, flowed out of me as I faced each of my attackers with renewed energy. I felt my hand plunge into one man's chest to crush his beating heart still inside him. I felt my energy fill an assailant's brain with so much energy that it overheated to explosion, blood dribbling from his ears as he crumpled to the ground. I felt myself shred 5, 10, 15 more attackers with less energy than it takes to flick on a light switch. With my attackers taken care of, I took a deep breath in, slowly exhaling the rage and power granted to me by the Daughters of the Precipice. I needed to be in control when I found the children, though I feared a second wave of fathers likely awaited me. As I quietly padded across the room, I noticed one of my assailants still clinging to life, his eyes wide and breaths shallow. Directing my glare at him, I flipped his body over, leaving him face down in a thick pool of his comrade's blood to drown. It seemed fitting. Fuck yeah, Laura! I followed Job's directions down the hallway to a locked door. Busting the lock with a pointed stair, I crept down the stairs the door revealed. Anxious for what might await me, what I saw down there, well, it was much worse than I ever anticipated. The room was nearly empty. No children, no people, save for one man sitting, waiting. He just laughed at my shocked expression, my fear for the children. Not what you were expecting? My heart began to race. So it was a trap. Job lied to me, and I'd left my children with him. You're just like all the other daughters. You think you're so smart, think you're better than us, he rambled, shaking his head incredulously. We knew you would find us, knew you'd be stupid enough to come here yourself. We've placed all the boys in homes. We couldn't risk you coming here to slaughter them all. The prophecy will be fulfilled, as it has been foretold. It was my turn to laugh, scoffing at his assumption that I'd come to kill innocent children. The prophecy has been fulfilled, all right, I muttered, immobilizing him in my hold. I didn't know what tricks he might have had up his sleeve, so I couldn't be too careful. My son is the prophecy, yet he's stronger, smarter, and more compassionate than any of you. When the moment of truth came, he thought for himself. He let me go. The cycle is over. You're wrong, he spat, glaring. The others are still out there. They will continue to breed and slaughter you like livestock, believing the prophecy remains unfulfilled. They will find you, they will kill you, and they will take your son. I froze in place as I realized he was right. I thrust his head into the wall behind him before running out of the mansion to get my vehicle. The return trip was no easier than the trip there. I felt as if I had to be on constant surveillance. Worst of all, oh wait, yeah, she's on constant surveillance. Sorry, I thought she meant she was under constant surveillance. Worst of all, I had no idea what I was coming home to. The worst case scenario ran through my mind on repeat. Job had killed Lucia, had taken Eli, had alerted more of the fathers to my location. More likely than not, they would already be there. I was so tired, I didn't have much fight left in me. I should have stopped to sleep, paused to recharge for the attack I knew awaited me. There was no time to waste if my children were in danger again. I lost my place. Hold on. The thumping sound coming from my trunk showed me I had even less time than I'd originally hoped. What? As I finally pulled back into my driveway, the front door swung open. I jumped in my seat, bracing myself for the onslaught I knew I was unprepared for. Instead, Eli ran out, followed by Lucia, then Job. I thrust the door to my car open and stumbled out of the vehicle to meet them, crumbling with exhaustion onto the paved ground. Eli wrapped his arms around me, tears running down his face. "Don't leave again," he cried. Weakly, I held him close as I finally allowed myself to process all that had happened in the past month, to finally grieve the losses I'd faced, the years of life I'd lost to a false curse, the lives I'd taken. Heaving sobs wrapped my body as Lucia joined the embrace. I snaked one arm around her shoulders. Uncle Job kneeled on the ground behind me to rub an open palm over my back, comforting me. A series of loud thumps rocked the back of my car. A series of loud thumps rocked the back of the parked car, sent me back into panic. I whipped my head around to glance at Job over my shoulder. "We're not safe," I whispered. "Get the kids inside." He did as I asked. Once I was alone again, I opened the garage door to pull my car inside. Popping the trunk open, I stared down at my captive, the man from the basement. Thank you for the follow, skinless snake. Hello, hello. He was bound and gagged, struggling furiously against his restraints. I rammed his head against the floor of the trunk until he was out cold again. I'd come back for him later. I needed a hot shower and a warm meal. Needed some time with my family first. So I think she's keeping him to like get info out of him, maybe? I don't know what she's doing. Like I said before, he was right. There are still more out there. Still more fathers using the daughters as incubators for a prophecy that had already come. A prophecy of hatred and fear that I will end with all of the compassion and love I have for my son. All of the humanity that exists within him that the fathers couldn't steal. There are more fathers who would come to harm my family, still more innocent children in their clutches. In the days since, I've been using my powers to extract information from my captive, healing him just as he starts to slip away. Oh, she learned how to heal, nice. Job and I have already confirmed 3 homes for me to visit once I've gotten enough rest. I'm exhausted, physically, mentally, emotionally, and I'm tired of using my powers to harm, but I know I can't stop yet. I know there are more out there like me, more innocent women, more innocent children, likely more defectors like Job, too. I can't rest until I find and free them all, until I ensure the safety of my family, and I will make damn sure that every woman and girl in my family, every daughter of the precipice, makes it to age 28. Okay, there's a few links. Okay, that's a link to her, she has a subreddit for all of her stories, I think. The Cryptic Compendium. Is this like an extended universe? Hold on. This might be an extended universe, is it? Or is this just her subreddit? Oh wait, these are different people. Wait, what is this? The Cryptic Compendium. This is like a different subreddit, and it's by... there's a bunch of stories by different people. Huh, what is this? Hold on. Let me Google. Cryptic Compendium. Horror story. About. Horror stories, series, subreddit exclusive. Stories must be complete, original, and contain some element of horror. Those must follow basic content. Okay, I think this is just another, spooky story subreddit. Maybe I'll have to take a look at that at some point. But yeah, I think that's all I've got in me for today. I'm really hungry. Please don't leave stream yet though. Just give me 1 second. I'll see you guys Friday, on Friday the 13th. I think what I want to do is, I think I want to maybe do a subs only VR chat horror map night for Friday the 13th. I don't know. I think that's what I want to do. Would that be cool? I don't... I'll have to ask Fortune how she does it. But I think that would be fun to do a little... I've been in VR chat more. I think it would be fun to do a little, VR chat horror night with, my subscribers. Maybe I can... Maybe I can, like, post something in my subs only channel in my Discord. Maybe. I don't know. Fortune knows more about it than I do, so I'll try to ask her. But yeah, that was fun. Those were some good, solid stories that I liked. The first one really gave me the fucking heebie-jeebs. But yeah, please join my Discord if you haven't. That's where we all hang out, and that's where you get all of my notifications, including whenever I go live on Twitch and whenever I post a video on YouTube. Speaking of YouTube, there it is. Speaking of YouTube, I posted a new song cover yesterday, Shoujo Rei, or Ghost Girl. I worked really hard on it. It's kind of more of a vent cover. Well, a lot of my covers are vent covers, but I mean, you know what I mean, right? A lot of my covers are venti because this is how I express myself, and but I hope you guys like it. I worked really hard on the video, and I worked really hard on the mixing. It was really hard to get right because I had to like split all the audio up into like 3 separate. It was a whole thing. But yeah, I'll see you guys on Friday for maybe some spooky VR chat stuff. I'll also have to ask Mayday if I can still use their model that they made for me for VR chat, because they said that if I want to use it for streaming, I would have to like pay a commercial fee, but I'm only using it for this one stream. I don't know. It'd be better to ask, I think. But yeah, thank you guys for coming. I appreciate it very much. Ooh, you know what I want to play? Also, I want to play Muse Dash, since they got that. Since they had that Miku update. I want to play Muse Dash. I've never really played Muse Dash, but now that Miku is in it, I have a reason. Ooh, or we could raid Alfred. Miffy or Alfred? Let's raid Miffy. He's playing Fuser? I don't know what that is. Who's Fuser? Miffy, what the fuck are you doing? Oh, it looks like a rhythm game? There's so many good songs in Muse now. Yay! I'm excited. Thanks for the company stream. Yeah, thank you guys for coming. I appreciate you being here. Ooh. It looks kind of like... I don't know what the fuck he's doing. There's an add-on, and I'm trying to watch him through, like, the little preview window. It looks like a drum rhythm game. I don't know. Hopefully he's still gonna be going for a minute. And I'm not rating him like as he's ending because he's on the main screen right now. He's on the main menu. Hold on, let me watch for a sec. Is he about to end? Show me. No, okay, he's just loading more stuff. Okay, please join my Discord if you haven't, so you can get notifications, because Twitch and YouTube are not reliable when it comes to getting people notifications. I have a VOD YouTube channel if you guys ever miss any of my Twitch streams. I'm gonna have to come up with a thumbnail for this one. I don't know what my thumbnail will be. But yeah, I'm gonna go get some food. Hope you guys enjoyed my spooky stories, and I will see you on Friday, hopefully, with some cool VR chat stuff that you can join in on. Okay, adios, bye. Wait, hold on. I need to load up my credits. Fuser is a rhythm game where you make mashups. Wonder if I can put some Utsupi in there. Go get something yummy. Yeah, dude, I'm gonna make like a hot dog. Okay. Goodbye. Adios. Please join my Discord if you haven't. Follow me on Twitter. Subscribe to my YouTube. And I'll see you Friday. Okay, bye.
つぶやきチクタクと夢の始まりを告げる僕らは君を探しながら歌うよ遠く思う声がいつか届けられるように星の流れる夜に北風が通りを吹き抜け待ち